Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum and call this meeting to order at 8:14 PM. Please call the roll.
Councilman Schwartz. Here. Councilwoman Belcher.
Here.
Councilman Goldberg.
Here.
Councilwoman Organ.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Katz. Deputy Mayor G.
Here.
Mayor Pagan.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 299-2023, sending a copy to the newspapers officially designated for 2024 by way of resolution number 2-2024, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's office and posting on the municipal building bulletin board, and the mayor hereby directs that the statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Township administration present at tonight's meeting are Thomas Rowe, our Deputy Township Manager, Doug Roussillon, our Township Clerk, Kristen DeNorcia, our Deputy Township Clerk, Scott Salmon, our Township Attorney, and Ron Goodman, our volunteer cable caster. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and continue the meeting. The next televised regular council meeting is on May 7th and begins at 6:30 PM, with the public portion of that meeting beginning at 8 PM. Council met in closed session earlier this evening to discuss the following: advisory board interviews, a DPW update, a library update, cell towers, community choice energy aggregation, contracts, legal issues, and opinions regarding items on the open session agenda, litigation updates, and Oprah. Before we move on to the next order of business, can everyone please join us in a brief moment of silence for Dr. Ken Hoffman? Dr. Hoffman was a friend, a coach, a referee, and a role model in Teaneck for decades, and we already miss him so much, and we are keeping his family in our thoughts and prayers. Please bow your heads for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Our next order of business, our first order of business is presentations, and first up is Scott Pleasance, our poet laureate. Mr. Pleasance, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I was just speaking to one of the gentlemen in the back, and I was telling him that yesterday I walked outside and everything was brown, and today I walked out and everything was green. So springtime has arrived. And along with springtime, we are in the month of April. And for those who are not aware, April is, amongst other things, it's National Poetry Month, and that's why I'm here tonight. National Poetry Month was launched by the Academy of American Poets in April of 1996. It is a special occasion that celebrates poets' integral role in our culture and indicating that poetry matters. Over the years, it has become the largest literary celebration in the world, with tens of millions of readers, students, teachers, librarians, booksellers, literary events, curators, publishers, families, and of course, poets, marking poetry's important place in our lives. So today, I am privileged to read a proclamation from the Township of Teaneck, which is in recognition of National Poetry Month 2024. The proclamation states, whereas the Academy of American Poets established the month of April as National Poetry Month in 1996. And whereas National Poetry Month seeks to highlight the extraordinary legacy and ongoing achievement of poets, introduce all to the pleasures and benefits of reading poetry, bring poetry and poetry to the public in bring poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, make poetry an important part of our children's education, and whereas National Poetry Month is now the largest literary celebration in the world, and whereas poetry enhances and enriches the lives of all, and whereas poetry is an essential part of the arts and humanities, affects every aspect of life today, including education, the economy, and community pride and development. And whereas poetry has produced some of the nation's leading creative artists and has inspired other artists in fields such as music, theater, film, dance, and the visual arts. And whereas Scott Pleasance, that would be me. Teanec's first poet laureate in our 129-year history, continues to serve as an outstanding ambassador of literary culture through poetry, and now therefore be it resolved that the Teaneck Township Council do hereby proclaim April 1st through April 30th as National Poetry Month in the Township of Teaneck, New Jersey. And we call upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of Teaneck to observe this month to celebrate the cultural riches our community has to offer and to recognize the important role of poetry in creating and sustaining our township through appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs. And that's our resolution. Whoops.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasance.
Our proclamation.
And you're going to share some poetry with us, correct?
I sure will, and I'd like to just share a very short piece. As everyone in our town, are we good? I'm good. All right. Got to pay attention to this, man. Important stuff, man. Okay. As everyone in our town was looking up at the sun the other day, I decided to take a look across, and I'll share this poem. It's called The Horizon. There's hopefulness on the horizon, a point where the sky meets the land and holds hands with a thin, strong fiber of optimism. A place where differences come together and unwrap ideologies on a table that stands stable on generational legs, anchored in a seemingly unsettled system of beliefs. The horizon shares a reflection and inflection that reveals in the distance a point and edge, which allows us to look at and realize that the line of our differences seemingly moves with energy fueled in uncertainty. However, we do have the ability to alter and allow an altar to be placed where we can come together and vow responsible respectability. The horizon, where your thoughts meet my thoughts and our thoughts join with their thoughts, and somewhere in the distance, there's hopefulness, where the sky meets the land and holds hands with a thin, strong fiber of optimism. Thank you very much.
Wait, Scott, give us a second, Scott.
Yes,
As the author of 7 books of poetry myself, I am proud to not only call you my friend, I'm proud to say that you're the best poet I know. And I want to thank you for everything that you've done as our poet laureate, because you've been doing an incredible job and you've been helping to bring a lot of people together during a time when we need it most. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on council that might want to say anything? No? Scott, thank you. We appreciate you. All right, our next order of business are the Matthew Feldman Awards of 2023, and Cheryl Hall, I think we're calling on you, and then Deputy Mayor G and a couple of other council members.
And Mayor, members of the public, as we get ready for this awesome awards ceremony, I just want to remind our public to be mindful of no flash photography, please. Thank you.
You're good, Cheryl. The floor is yours, ma'am. The mic would be helpful, but if you can project, or if you could hold it.
Thank you. You shouldn't be doing that, man. Thank you. Hey. Hi, everyone. Am I speaking in clearly? Good? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Hall, and I am currently the chair of the Advisory Board on Community Relations. And it gives me immense pleasure tonight to be giving out the Matthew Feldman Awards for 2023. These awards were won 12 months ago, but because of scheduling and other events, they weren't given out and they were well deserved. So I'm so excited that we are giving that out tonight. And part of the Matthew Feldman was the first Jewish mayor and also a US senator who inspired a great deal of the spirit of volunteerism and helping within the community. And I think tonight's winners are a shining example of that. The Youth Advisory Board did a phenomenal presentation last year on life-saving equipment. And indeed, I do believe that they have saved future lives, young lives on the sports field. So they absolutely have merited this award. And Shyam Khan is a living example of a person that does good and disappears and doesn't seek the limelight for the good that he has done across the township. People, even at my church, know his name. They know him well. So he is a well-deserved recipient of this award. And at this time in our township, I am incredibly proud. So with that, I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor G, our liaison. And also, I would like all the community, the Advisory Board of Community Relations people to come up and stand with me over here to the side.
So it is my absolute privilege to have the honor to present this award. So the first award is the Matthew Feldman Community Relations Award, and it's presented to Shyam Khan, who has demonstrated an ongoing commitment to intergroup and community relations, fosters the spirit of the community, and exemplifies volunteerism. Like Cheryl mentioned earlier, every event you will see Shyam there. Every single one, without question. He is great partner to this town, to the youth especially. He has worked with students for so many years, and we're so excited to have you here in Teaneck. And most recently, he has joined our Youth Advisory Board as serving as an advisor, and so we're so excited to have you serve there. Please come up. And here is the award. It's a really fancy clock. We can put it back in the box, but maybe can we take a photo? Who has the camera? Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to take it out. Let's take it out. Yeah.
And I believe if the family's here.
Would the family like to come up? Yes.
I'll keep this aside from you.
Come on up. Scoot this over. Yes, get everybody in there. All right, Joanne, did you get it?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
All right. Next, we have the Matthew Feldman Community Relations Youth Award. This is presented to the Teaneck Youth Advisory Board. Can you all come and join us? Again, this award is presented to a group or a student or a group that has demonstrated an ongoing commitment to intergroup and community relations, fosters the spirit of community, and exemplifies volunteerism. Like Cheryl mentioned earlier, these students brought forth a very important matter to the township last year. And because of you, we now have life-saving tools all over town that were not there before. So give yourself a round of applause. And I also want to just shout out our youth advisors. One is particularly special to me, my husband, Kwan G, but but also Dwayne Hartley and Shay Lewis. They have, for so many years, led these students with such passion and really have been a great sounding board for the students. And what's so special about these advisors is they let the students lead. right? They really step into that advisor role. They give guidance, but they let the students take the lead, which I really think is important. So without further ado, who would like to come accept this beautiful clock? All right. Does Kentaro have your phone? Yeah. All right, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
There's, there are refreshments outside, but does anyone on council want to say something? Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yeah. I want to talk. I want to congratulate Mr. Khan and the Youth Advisory Board on being the recipients of the 2023 Matthew Feldman Award. You join a list of people and organizations that are committed to this diverse community and who have exemplified the traits and passion of Senator Matthew Feldman that the award has been named for. As mayor, Matty Feldman was the founder of the Advisory Board of Community Relations in a time when his lone voice on council was most needed, and he was committed to the hard work of community relations. After Matty's sudden death, this award was created to recognize individuals or groups who best exemplify the efforts to improve community relations in Teaneck. There are not many people left in Teaneck who had the privilege of knowing Matty. 2 of them are on this dais, and I have the greater privilege of calling him my uncle. Matty defined leadership and exemplified the heart and soul of Teaneck. Matty never dismissed anyone who came for help, and he never shied away from any stand on controversial issues. He stood against racism and hatred, anti-Semitism, bigotry. It all had no place in his life, and he was a man of intelligence and integrity and held deep moral and personal convictions. Everything that this town, its heart and soul is. Matty was patient and tolerant for everyone but the intolerant. And Matty championed the notion that even when compromise seemed impossible, if the lines of communications were open, a solution can always be reached. As recipients of this award this year or last year, I want to thank you and congratulate you on receiving this very prestigious award and for your commitment to Teaneck. And I ask the public to please submit their nominations for the 2024 Matthew Feldman Award, which I hope will be available online soon, for people and organizations that embody this award, as our honorees have done so tonight as well.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Anyone else on council? Mr. Schwartz?
I think the board went outside to eat, so I'm ready to eat, so I won't belabor the point.
Ms. Belcher, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations, Mr. Khan and the Youth Advisory Board. I think that definitely the youth is our future. They are leading the way. They just have such energy and dedication and passion, and I just applaud them. I think there's no better award than to award this to youth-related leaders and our young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? Ms. Organ?
Just a congratulations to Mr. Khan and also Nadia. They're behind every great man is a great woman, and to the Youth Advisory Board, who are no longer here, and I hope they're eating very delicious cake. But this is the good stuff. This is what brings us together. These are the things that we like to do, and these are the things that we can all agree on. So congratulations.
Anybody else on council? No. Once again, lastly, congratulations, Mr. Khan. Congratulations to our Youth Advisory Board. And thank you to our Advisory Board and Community Relations for helping make this happen. Our next order of business is work session items. And first up is miscellaneous. Does anyone have anything under miscellaneous?
Mr. Mayor?
I do.
Ms. Goldberg and then Ms. Belcher?
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Hoffman was the chair of the Municipal Open Space Advisory Board, which is a specified and pretty critical advisory board, especially in this referendum year. The most advisory board's role is to advise the council on the spending of these funds, and it's a vital part of our township since its passage in 2004. I want to nominate current sitting member Avi Berliner as the new chair in Dr. Hoffman's sudden death.
Okay, our clerk is not here, but we have a first by Councilwoman Goldberg
Our clerks
and
can
a
represent.
second by Mr. Katz. I guess I'll call the roll and then I will make a note on paper. Oh,
Right here.
Kristen, my bad. Thank you, Kristen. Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Ms. Belcher,
Yes.
Ms. Organ,
Yes.
Ms. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Katz, Ms. G,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Congratulations, Mr. Berliner. Ms. Belcher, you said you had something else under miscellaneous.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, and we just want to acknowledge this being the last meeting of the month of April. We want to acknowledge the fact that at least this is Arab Heritage Month, when we recognize the importance in celebrating the diverse cultural heritage right here within our township. Arab Americans have made significant contributions to the fabric of course, America, as well as Teaneck. And we certainly want to recognize that. We did decide that we would put forth a resolution in the next meeting, which is May 7th, but I just did not want the night to go by without us acknowledging in the month of April that this is Arab American Heritage Month. So just wanting to say that. So stay tuned for May 7th. We'll see a resolution on that day.
Can
Thank
I
you, Ms. Belcher. Ms.
piggyback
Organ.
on that also? And then we'll ask the clerk to keep it in the calendar so that at the beginning of April or the end of March going forward, we can pass a resolution then.
Does anyone have anything else under miscellaneous? Seeing no hands, moving forward, next order of business is old business. Does
Mr.
anyone have
Mayor?
anything?
I
Yes.
have old business. Sorry, I didn't get to put this on. I want to talk about CSX train for a second. So we've heard a lot of concerns over the years about the safety concerns with the CSX railways. We have thousands of residents within the 2,500 foot evacuation zone, which covers most residents in Teaneck, and Art Batsky has spoken to us multiple times over the many years. And I would like to propose and see what everyone thinks for the next meeting that we express our support for federal and state legislation to enforce train safety. We've seen derailments across the country and we're just as much risk at everyone else. But we can't do this alone. So I want to propose a resolution for next meeting that we ask the manager to send a letter to the 17 neighboring municipalities that adjoin the CSX tracks for their collaboration and support in state and federal legislation to protect rail safety.
Sounds great, yeah.
Yes? Everyone okay with that?
Everybody okay with that? Denise, Mark, Karen?
Good
Mr.
job, Mr. Batsky.
Mr. Attorney, for the next meeting, can we have a resolution for that?
Mr. Roussillon, did you catch that too?
Anybody?
You remind me the number of towns you said?
17, I'll give you the list later, but just for next meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Does anyone have? Yes, Mr. Katz.
ANAAC meeting, the Teterboro Airplane Noise. Can we find out who the representative is? Oh, you are.
Yes.
But you're the resident representative or you're the council
I
representative?
think I'm the council representative because I read the minutes. I sit next to the guy at the county who represents the county there.
But is there a
and-
a resident representative also?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh,
I can,
okay.
you know what? I'll find out though. I'll triple check tomorrow morning when I get to the office.
Okay,
Does that help?
perfect.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Katz. Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Does anyone have anything else under old business? Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, just wanted to update everyone. At the last meeting, we had a discussion on a resolution that or an ordinance that we wanted to put together as it relates to good and welfare and changing some meeting rules, regulations, whether it be Zooms and I came forth with some ideas and we're not yet ready. I'm just talking to everyone, talking to the public and whatnot. So I'll keep working on that. Two things I wanted to point out. First of all, Mr. Mayor, I was asked to give you the thanks. Apparently last meeting, you put more preference on people in the room to speak first, and it was appreciated. People felt
that's always
they
the
were
goal.
here for hours, and they felt that. No disrespect to people on Zoom, but they felt that they came out for hours. So those people asked me to relay that thank you. And two, I wanted to thank the council because at 11 o'clock, we did stop. We did spend a solid amount on the town's important business, and we really got a lot done. So everyone won, if you can use those words in that. That'll be reflected in this resolution draft, but I just wanted to put those two under old business and say that.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Deputy Mayor G.
Apologies, I meant to bring this up during miscellaneous. For leadership TNEC, you all voted to have us each host a separate meeting. I still have dates where I do not have a council member host. So I need someone for April 29th. Can anyone commit to April 29th?
Deputy Mayor G, that's a holiday.
Right. So we were not able to change that date, and I understand that some of you will not be available on that date. We also were not able to change the dates during Ramadan. And so what we did was we videotaped April 8th, because there were some who were not able to participate in that date because of Ramadan. And we're going to do the same thing for April 29th. Dean, I believe, sent an email detailing that.
But Jews literally can't drive or read or write on that day.
Deputy Mayor G, I'll take the 29th.
Thank you. So we are going to make a video available so that everyone can watch afterwards. It was not ideal, but we could not find another date that worked, unfortunately. We also were not able to do the same thing on April 8th during Ramadan, where no one was able to eat or drink water. I also need someone for May 6th. And I need someone for June 10th. Okay.
It's 7 to
7 to
9:30
9:30.
usually.
May 6th is team building. You all wanted to sign up. You all wanted to host. So can I get some hands?
What's June 10th? Maybe I'll trade it.
That's the Board of Education.
Oh, it's not. Okay, I'll get you the next round.
If nobody else volunteers, I'll do the other one as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
That
please
was it.
remind me.
Will
I'm
do.
gonna make a note of it now. Does anyone else have anything under old business? Seeing no hands, next order of business is new business. Does anyone have anything under new business? Ms. Organ. Oh, yeah, Doug. Can I make a motion to introduce? Yeah. Can you please read it into the record?
Yes, absolutely, Mayor. And also for the understanding of the public, what we're reading into the record right now is a resolution that is rejecting bids received in the RFP that went out just a few weeks ago for the regional renewable government energy aggregation services that the township has been working on. And this resolution we are reading into the record to be included on tonight's consent agenda. There was a motion from Mayor Pagan. I will now read it into the record. Please bear with me. It is a resolution of the Township of Teaneck, State of New Jersey, rejecting the award of a contract with third-party power supplier to provide electric generation service to the Township Community Energy Aggregation Program and to provide renewable government energy aggregation services in connection with the TCEA RGEA program pursuant to New Jersey Administrative Code 14:4-6. Whereas the Government Energy Aggregation Act of 2003 governs the establishment of a government energy aggregation program, which government-operated purchasing cooperative through which multiple energy consumers join together for the purchase of electric utility services by a government aggregator. And whereas the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities has promulgated rules for the implementation of government energy aggregation programs, and whereas the Teaneck Township Council passed an ordinance by referendum on November 2nd, 2021, authorizing the formation of a government energy aggregation in the township named the Teaneck Township Energy Aggregation Program. And whereas the Township of Teaneck is acting as the lead agency in this program, and whereas the TCEA has been established by the lead agency for the purposes of obtaining electric generation services for their residents at a comparable cost and with a higher renewable energy content, the default service power supply provided via the local electric utility tariff, and to also promulgate and promote the more efficient usage of energy among residents. and therefore the particular GEA program being implemented by the TCA is hereinafter referred to as the RGEA program. And whereas the residents of Teaneck Township are included on an opt-out basis as set forth in applicable rules by state statute, and whereas by virtue of ordinance by referendum dated November 2nd, 2021, and in accordance with the New Jersey Board of Public Utility rules and applicable law, the township is authorized to award a contract for electric generation service and government energy aggregation services on behalf of participating residential customers. And whereas the Township of Teaneck, in its capacity as lead agency, publicly noticed and issued on March 15th, 2024, a request for proposals for the provision of electric generation service and government energy aggregation services for the first round of the program, and has solicited proposals from qualified suppliers in New Jersey. And whereas the RFP provided for a two-stage process that included stage one for the submission of supplier questions and comments and the submission of qualification documents by interested New Jersey Board of Public Utilities licensed suppliers, and stage two for the submission of price proposals. And whereas the RFP provides for the required supply of a baseline product for all participants that includes an enhanced renewable energy product that contains 70% renewable energy content through December 31, 2025, and 80% renewable energy content starting January 1, 2026, and provides for the submission of pricing for electric generation service for a single pricing group comprised of participating residential accounts in the PSE&G service territory in the township for two different contract start dates, several potential contract durations, and for two different contract language options. Option A, using the form of master performance agreement attached to the said RFP, or option B, using the form of MPA attached to the RFP, except that subsection 3.2A C is removed. And whereas the RFP also requires that suppliers propose a specific green price premium applicable to those individual residents that voluntarily opt out of the voluntary 100% energy product, consisting of the baseline enhanced renewable energy product, plus an additional amount of New Jersey RPS compliant class 1 renewable energy to cover the remainder of a customer's energy usage. And whereas the RFP provides for the submission of separate pricing for electric generation service for three potential contract durations beginning August 2024 as follows: for either 12 months to August 2025, 16 months to December 2025, or 24 months to August 2026. And whereas the RFP provides for the submission of separate pricing for electric generation service for two different contract language options. Option A, for the form of master performance agreement attached to the RFP, and option B, using the form of MPA attached to the RFP, except that subsection 3.2 be removed. Whereas the RFP provides for the submission of separate pricing for electric generation service for one pricing group, one participating residential accounts, and the RFP provides for the award of a contract for participating residential accounts at the discretion of the township. And whereas during stage one, non-binding notices of intent and other qualification documents were received from one electric supplier licensed in the state of New Jersey, whereas a number of supplier questions and comments were received, and as a result, on April 2nd, 2024, Teaneck CEA clarifications was issued and distributed to all suppliers that had submitted a notice of intent to propose. And whereas no formal stage two price proposals and accompanying transmittal letters were submitted by any licensed electric power supplier by noon, April 2nd, which was the deadline set forth in the RFP. And whereas as a result of not receiving any formal awardable price proposals on April 16th, 2024, the Teaneck Township Council has determined that no contract award shall be made at this time. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Teaneck Township Council shall make no Teaneck CEA Round 1 contract award on April 16th this evening, and be it further resolved that the RFP shall be held open for a period of 120 days, and that the township may accept refreshed prices in accordance with the RFP at any time during that 120-day period, consistent with applicable law. There was a first from Mayor Pagan on that resolution, and I just want to remind everyone the only reason we had to read it into the record is because it was not included in the agenda for this evening because of time constraints. So we don't typically go through that. There was a first from our mayor, second Schwartz, and I will call the roll to again add it to the consent agenda which will be Resolution 120-2024. Councilman Schwartz. Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Oregon.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Thank you for your patience. Added to the consent agenda.
And thank you once again, Mr. Clerk, for reading that into the record. Does anyone have anything else under new business? Seeing no hands. Does anyone have anything under communications? Does any, committee reports by council liaisons, cannabis subcommittee update. Ms. Goldberg?
Sorry, I have actually three liaison reports. So the cannabis update is really just kind of an update and an explanation of what the ordinance that's being introduced tonight is. So it talks about kind of how we got here and just some highlights, and it's a long report from the cannabis subcommittee, so I'm not gonna read the entire thing, but it gives the bullet points of what's in the ordinance being introduced tonight. PPREB met and they decided unanimously to go hybrid instead of Zoom meetings. So those will be at the Rhoda Center going forward. They also discussed about their parks tour and getting a schedule on that now that the weather is getting nicer. Additionally, they chose to include some of the smaller parcels of land to include opportunities for quiet parks for potential passive recreation purposes and cleanup. And there was also a discussion on reviewing some of the recreation fees with Glenna. And asking, and I guess Tom asking the grant writer if they can help explore some grant opportunities for the skateboard park. I believe there's a few organizations that will work on that. And the last thing was that they discussed collaboration with Glenna about a potential job fair for the high school kids for the recreation department job opportunities for the summer. And then I'm going to do the most, but does anyone have any questions on PPRB before I? Good. Okay. So the most board met, and first and foremost, I want to express my condolences to Vivian Hoffman and the entire Hoffman family on the sudden and tragic loss of long time resident, a long time volunteer, former chair of PPRB and most recent chair of the Most Advisory Board. Dr. Hoffman and I did not always agree on hyperlocal policy issues. We didn't always agree with the how, but Ken was dedicated to TNAC and to our parks and our leagues and our recreation department, our seniors and kids. And his loss will be felt by the entire community for a very long time to come. And one of the last things he made a point of saying at that last meeting was that the importance of remembering that we can disagree on hyperlocal issues, but attacks based on hate and who a person is never okay. And I really appreciated that. So thank you, Ken. At the same meeting, we discussed the upcoming MOST referendum, which needs to be renewed and passed by the voters every 4 years, and has been discussed with council members as well about exploring the rewording of the MOST referendum this year. Since MOST began, we've acquired 2 properties, that's since 2004. And now thanks to the passage of the OSRP and Rossi, soon thanks to the help of the planning board, and the idea is to maximize the use of the spending of the MOST funds with matching grants that we're able to now get from Green Acres once the Rossi and OSRP is passed. So we always want the most for our residents and to be able to get the best parks and open space. So the board was very interested in exploring this with the referendum. And that was really it.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Does anyone else have any committee reports? Ms. Belcher?
Not so much a committee report, but I just want to let the public know that the planning board has received the master plan and has begun the basic review and analysis of it. I just want to remind the public that the planning board meetings are open to the public. So for those that would like to come out, you certainly are welcome to do so. And speaking of communications, we'll receive something in our mail about Bryan's School and the Teaneck Early Childhood Center's Autism Awareness Walk is this Friday, April 19th at 1 p.m. to raise awareness of Autism Month and the importance of inclusion. Just want to mention that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? Committee reports? No? Next order of business is council listed items. Proposed resolution to end Jewish hate. Councilwoman Goldberg and Oregon. The floor is yours.
Last year, we passed a resolution that we're reintroducing tonight. April 29th has been declared End Jewish Hate Day. And so this is the exact resolution that we passed last year. It leads into May, which is Jewish Heritage Month. It recognizes that the anti-Semitism is on the rise and higher yet this year. And we hope to make this an annual thing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg, do you want to add anything or?
No, I
No?
just want to make the motion to add it to the consent agenda.
And the consent agenda, this will be resolution 121-2024. That was a motion from Councilwoman Goldberg and a second from Councilman Schwartz. Going down the roll, Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Added to the consent agenda.
Next up, a proposed resolution recognizing Juneteenth. Deputy Mayor G.
Yes, so the Juneteenth committee reached out and asked that we put forth this resolution recognizing Juneteenth. A request was made to share just a little bit more about what Juneteenth is, and so I'm going to share a brief summary of Juneteenth. So Juneteenth is short for June 19th. This marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. The troops' arrival came a full 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth honors the end of slavery in the United States and is considered the longest-running African-American holiday. On June 17th, 2021, it officially became a federal holiday. So Juneteenth will occur this year on, I believe, Wednesday, June 19th. So I hope that's a little bit more background for everyone who has questions, but I hope everyone will participate in the Juneteenth activities this year. I personally do. Oh, I see Celine in the back. She is the chair of the committee. I personally participate every year with the family. It's a great event for children to participate in as well. So I hope you will all join us. Oh, yes. Can I make a motion to add this resolution to the consent agenda?
Second.
First from Deputy Mayor G, second from Councilwoman Belcher for resolution 122-2024. Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz, Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Added to consent agenda.
Of course. Next order of business, Township Manager's Report. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Start with Votee Tennis Court Light Project. The project has been rebid. The bid closing date is April 23rd. The Votee Park Restroom Project, we had the pre-construction meeting last week. Contractor has ordered the building. The lead time for the building is 16 to 20 weeks. The Votee Park Shade and Shelter, we're waiting for the delivery of the material, is expected to arrive on the week of May 20th. Pike Lane Road Surfacing Improvements and Drainage Project, the design is underway. Waiting for the capital bond ordinance to be approved. That's a $550,000 grant that we received for that project. The stormwater infrastructure system mapping, per New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the township has to complete this mapping by January 2026. We received a grant of $25,000 from the DEP to prepare this mapping. Bell Avenue Drainage Diversion Permit, the property survey required by Green Acres has started and will be completed by next month. Herrick Park improvements, we received approval from Green Acres to go out to bid. There will be 3 separate bid packages for this project. The first one will be for the baseball and basketball court. The second one will be for restroom in the spray park. And the third will be for the children's playground. The project will go out to bid in the next few weeks. The CDS community grant for Bell Avenue drainage. The CADIX, or the categorical exclusions, is signed, and Millennium Consulting is preparing the application. They will submit the application next week. The Teaneck Urban Rain Garden grant agreement was sent to the town for signature by DEP. The pedestrian bridge over Palace Head Avenue, CSX Railroad and Windsor Road. Engineering will reach out to the structural engineer to start the work ASAP once the contract is signed. Obviously, that's been an ongoing issue. We want to get that bridge back in service as soon as possible. The 2023 road resurfacing project is out to bid. The bid date is May 14th, 2024. Beverly parking lot project, paving project. That's the east part of the parking lot. The bids are due on that project on 4/30, April 30th. Once that is completed, then we will move the farmer's market to that end of the parking lot. Emergency sewer repairs, the bids are due on April 23rd. Palisade Avenue improvements, that was the NJ DOT freight grant that we were awarded in the amount of $249,252. The design is underway. We're waiting for the capital board bond ordinance to be approved. Again, that was a nice grant that we received from DOT for that. And anybody who's been on Court Street going north knows that roadway needs resurfacing in the worst way, in horrible shape. The CDB 2023 grant, so that's 4 roads that are going to be paved as part of that grant: Schoonmaker Road, Neldon Road, Argonne Court, and Hurleman Road improvements. The project is out to bid. The bid date is April 23rd. Palmer Ave rumble strips, we're receiving quotes from the striping contractor. So far, the lowest quote is $8,100 from Straight Edge Striping. Yesterday, we installed 12 solar-powered LED flashing stop signs on Palmer Avenue. They are bright, but they are certainly going to be effective. In addition to that, the police department is conducting a traffic survey to see if any of those intersections will warrant a 4-way stop sign. They will be doing a survey for volume and speed, and we have to look at the criteria outlined in what's called the MUTCD to see if it meets the criteria for a 4-way stop sign. Speed bumps on East Lawn Drive. This traffic study is complete for the speed bump. We need a survey from the residents that are in favor of the speed bump. We use 75% as the minimum threshold for the approval of the speed bump. Oftentimes when speed bumps go in initially, the residents are happy about it. Then there's other ancillary issues that come along, such as noise and sometimes cars scraping the bottom. So we want to have significant buy-in from the residents before that's implemented. Teaneck Road, the last 2 days, they did the milling from Cedar Lane just to the area by Warner Place. Due to the weather over the next 2 days, they will not be able to resurface the road. So we're looking at Friday right now, weather permitting. They will start at 5 a.m. because they're going to start with the Cedar Lane Teaneck Road intersection. Get that intersection done as soon as possible so that could be open for rush hour traffic. Then it will proceed north. There'll be detours in place. Much of the roadway will be closed while they pave. We're anticipating, hopefully everything goes okay, that they'll be done by 3 p.m. The updated Rossi was submitted to Green Acres for their review and hopefully their approval. Atlantic Coast Fibers, as you remember, January 2021, they had a fire. They took that plant offline. So unfortunately, we've been going to Mine Hill, Newark, and Jersey City to dispose of our recyclables. That's 18 trucks a week. And we go to the various locations, whatever the tipping fee is. If it's a lower tipping fee in Jersey City, we'll go there. So that's going to come back online next month. So now we'll be going to Passaic versus going to Mine Hill, Jersey City, and Newark. So we'll save on gas, labor, and other parts of the equipment. NJDOT finally yesterday installed the stop sign at the intersection of Alfred Avenue and Decatur. They approved it in November. Took an inordinate amount of time for it to get installed. Councilman Schwartz, I know you've inquired about the utility poles on Route 4 that have been knocked down. I think that was around January 10th. I've been in contact with our PSEG representative. Seems like DOT is dragging their feet with that. So I will be after them again tomorrow to get that expedited because there are 3 utility poles with street lights that are out of service. So it's very dark in that area and it looks unsightly. And Mayor, that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Next order of business, attorneys report, Mr. Salmon. Oh, sorry, Mr.
No,
Schwartz.
the seats are no longer reserved, I believe, right? I see.
Yeah, no, it's open to everybody.
Thank you, Councilman Schwartz.
Mr. Salmon.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I would.
Salmon. Our next order of business is good and welfare. Any member of the public wishing to be heard at this time will be asked to state their name for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. If you are on Zoom, please list your first name and your last name so our clerk can call on you. We ask that you also turn on your camera when speaking if possible. And before we start, I want to remind residents that it is still budget season, and we would love to hear your thoughts on the budget and other local Teaneck issues because that will help us in crafting a budget for our residents that will help improve Local Services. Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ron Schwartz, Larch Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey. I'm speaking tonight as a representative of One Town, One Vote. One Town, One Vote is the Teaneck grassroots movement that helped move Teaneck elections from May to November, dramatically increasing voter turnout and citizen involvement in local government and the future of our town. One Town, One Vote is deeply concerned that the voice of the people is not being heard regarding the proposed redevelopment plan for the Stop and Shop and Beverly Road areas. At a March 27th, 2024 public forum sponsored by the Council's Subcommittee on Zoning, the developer Crossroads was given its third opportunity to sell its redevelopment plan to the public, a public that is clearly not buying. Now, in 3 public forums, Teaneck citizens have resoundingly rejected Crossroads as a developer for this area, based in part on its overwhelming conflict of interest in obtaining the original designation as an area in need of redevelopment, a scandal that still sticks and smells with this town. The modifications to the plan presented at the March 27th forum were almost laughable in their inadequacy. Number one, this massive plan still consists of 318 apartment units, which will add 477 cars per day to the already clogged intersection of Garrison Avenue and Cedar Lane. Can you imagine 477 additional cars at that intersection every day in Teaneck? I can't imagine it. Yet, with all those cars clogging that intersection in our main business district, there has been no traffic study submitted by either the developer or the town. Number two, the space allocated for the farmers market, which we love, between the huge parking garage and Garrison Avenue was minuscule. A little postage stamp of sidewalk between Garrison Avenue and the huge parking building that is planned is totally inadequate. And it's our view that we will lose the farmers market if this plan goes forward. Number three, the amount of open space described in the plan was completely negligible. Number four, the planner's statement made on behalf of Teaneck that this would be the last opportunity for public input was grossly inadequate and inaccurate. By statute, there must be public hearings and public input both before the planning board and the council before any redevelopment plan may be adopted. Why was this misinformation given to the public at that public forum? The Teaneck public has now spoken loudly 3 times that it does not want this developer or this development plan. When is this council going to listen?
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Bringing in Gail Gordon. Please unmute, state your name for the record.
Gail Gordon.
1 second, Gail. Can you give me another? Can you just count to 5 for me real quick, Gail? I want to make sure we can hear you.
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Could you get any closer to your microphone, perhaps, Gail?
I will try. Yes. Is this better?
Yeah, a little bit. Give us 1 second. We're just going to boost your volume in here.
Okay.
Gail, say hi for me real quick.
Hello.
You sound great. 3 minutes.
Okay. I am happy that we are taking an action tonight to support a resolution about anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitism. I know that we have, over time, supported various resolutions against various forms of hate. And because of the latest things that have happened in the town and how there's been rising tensions in the town.
Gail, I'm sorry, we're having a hard time hearing you. You keep cutting in and out.
Huh. I don't know why.
Oh, now you sound perfectly clear.
Oh.
Please continue. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So I think it's time now that we reaffirm the resolution that was passed, I think, in 2020, condemning all forms of hate. And I would like that done at this meeting. because
Gail,
I
you
think
keep breaking up. We have a lot of callers. Maybe you could try to get a solid connection and call back and we will bring you in. We
I will
paused your
try.
time.
I will try.
We're going to go back into the chambers. Sir? Oh, no, not Phil, sorry. Second to last row, the imam.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Dawood, Imam Muhammad Dawood. I'm also a New York City licensed chaplain. I graduated from Teaneck High School, class of 1976. My residency in Teaneck has been about 52 years. I have to say, we Muslims from Teaneck and Bergen County, we have to object to this Holocaust memorial wall at this moment that is being planned by this board and committee on public grounds. It is divisive, extremely so. A Holocaust memorial wall and room, possibly in a Teaneck Public Library, is a no-no. This is public grounds. If the Hebrew people here in Teaneck wish to have a Holocaust memorial wall, then it should be within their own private facilities or temples, but not to charge the people here in Teaneck out of our own pockets to build such a wall. It should not come out of public funds at all. One of the reasons why many of my Muslim brothers and sisters have decided this action is because a Holocaust memorial wall by those Hebrews, we do not say this is not a Holocaust, they never had a Holocaust. No. We say that basically, though they had a Holocaust, remembrance of that and doing the things to their neighbors in spite of the Holocaust in works of genocide, apartheid, and war crimes. That is wrong. Very much wrong. I've been to Jerusalem, I've been to Palestine, the West Bank, and it is an apartheid situation. They don't have human rights, equal rights, justice, and due process of law. These are the Palestinians I'm talking about, and we should say no. And I feel that many of my Muslim brothers and sisters and those who believe in peace and justice, we also say no.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Someone on Zoom, Mr. Short. Is there any more? Oh, sir.
Yes.
No, sorry. We have more clergy. Sorry. Thank you for pointing that out.
Hello, Avraham Wine. I am the assistant rabbi at Congregation Keter Torah in Teaneck and an educator at a local boys' yeshiva high school. And I've lived in this community for almost 3 years now. I want to begin by thanking our public officials here. I know we're all grappling with a very complicated and sensitive new reality, and we appreciate all your good faith efforts in this regard. I have some prepared remarks, which I will get to, but I just want to begin by saying, as a grandchild of a Holocaust survivor and as a grandchild, great-grandchild of those murdered in the Holocaust, the idea that the Holocaust and the murder of 6 million Jews in the gas chambers and worse is a divisive issue, is a complicated issue, and is comparable to any modern reality is simply beyond my capacity to understand. You know, in less than a week, the Jewish community will be celebrating the holiday of Passover. Many Jews worldwide will sit and discuss and retell the story of the Exodus, where our God redeemed us from servitude in Egypt. And we recount the horrors that the Egyptians perpetrated towards us, so many unspeakable atrocities. One of the great sages in our tradition, Rabbi Soloveitchik, has a very profound insight on a line in the text that we recite that evening. And he says that one of the great evils that the Egyptians committed towards us was not just the years of servitude, but it's that Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, made us out to be evil. He mischaracterized who the Jews were, their intentions, portraying them as a fifth column in society. And Rabbi Soloveitchik further explains that the unthinkable acts committed against the Jews in Egypt were only capable of happening because of the demonizing that preceded it. This, unfortunately, is not just a Passover story for the Jewish people. This has long been the awful tale of anti-Semitism, where Jews are misrepresented, defamed, characterized inaccurately by those with malicious intentions in order to subsequently harass, attack, and much worse. If I listed all the examples, we'd be here for much too long, and my time would expire. I fear that this trend is happening in our town. Several events which happened in our synagogues recently were completely mischaracterized in ways that can only be described at best as terribly misleading and at worst, horrific propaganda. And this has empowered and encouraged others, to a large extent from outside of this town, to outrageously harass and attack us in ways that have been discussed many times in these meetings. And I reiterate, this is unacceptable, and we Jews are not going anywhere. Two brief final thoughts. One, there was a clip going around of people who do not represent our community in any way. They're not part of our community, and any language or gestures that they use do not represent our community in the slightest. And I and all the community rabbis absolutely condemn that type of language, though we feel very strongly. I'll conclude that let's all try to work together to make Teaneck a better place and have an impact on what we actually
Thank
can.
you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there, before we go on to the next person on Zoom, are there any other religious leaders that would like to speak? Rabbi Schreier, did you want to say anything? You're good? You're good? All right, Doug, someone on Zoom, please.
Glenn, please unmute, state your name for the record. Feel free to share.
Yes, thank you.
No
Can
problem.
you hear
Please-
me okay? I just want to let you know the previous speaker sounded just fine on this side, so it might be on your end.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Mr. Glenn, Mr. Mayor, and members of City Council. My wife and I are residents of Teaneck for over 33 years. I just wanted to say that I'm really very happy for tonight's recipients of the 2023 Matthew Feldman Award from the Youth Advisory Board. Congratulations to them. And I want to send out special thanks to the council for once again declaring April 29th the End Jewish Hate Day. It's unfortunate that we have to have such a day, but especially today when we see so much hate on display here in our community, it's important that the council came out strongly and with unanimous support, and I really thank you for that. As in towns across America, Teaneck residents have the right to speak and be heard, but we also have a responsibility to each other to speak right and to act appropriately. Cars driving below the speed limit in caravans that block access to residents and emergency vehicles should be issued tickets within the full extent of the law. The Teaneck Police, who I applaud for their professionalism and do an amazing job for our residents, are very familiar with setting up speed traps and safe zones to pull over drivers who are violating our laws and have the ability to do so as well in the case of these illegal protests. This is a technique being used in cities around the country, including a massive police response this week to the pro-Palestinian, anti-American, and anti-Semitic car caravans in Detroit and other cities across America like Philadelphia, where demonstrations to form economic blockades occurred yesterday on April 15th. Multiple arrests were made and many ticketed during a massive police response to the procession. Charges included improper lane usage, interference with traffic, and failure to use a seatbelt. New Jersey seatbelt law requires all motor vehicle passengers in the front seats and back seats to buckle up. Belt use by the driver and all front seat passengers is a primary offense, and a police officer may stop a vehicle and issue a ticket for this violation alone. Other violations, including for expired registration, drug possession, illegal weapons, etc., and searches of the vehicle can be conducted. and the revenue can be used to offset the expense of this policing effort. I'd like to hear more from our township attorney. I'm a little disappointed that we did not hear some specifics tonight on what will be done in the future. And I applaud the efforts of the certain council members to obtain this guidance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Phil Yuck.
Good evening, everybody. Philip Yuck, Teaneck resident, Bell Avenue. Thank you for dealing with our flooding situation. I stand before this council tonight as a proud Jewish American, a resident of Teaneck for 45 years, having moved here primarily for its diversity, and as representing the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck. The coalition supports this resolution condemning anti-Semitism, as it would support any resolution condemning hate of or discrimination against any group of people simply for who they are or for what their religious beliefs might be. As our representative Congressman Josh Gottheimer clearly stated a few days ago, no one, regardless of race, ethnicity, or religion, should live in fear. There is no place for this hate, referring to Islamophobia and anti-Semitism in our state, communities, or our nation. That said, on January 4th, 2022, by unanimous vote, the Teaneck Council adopted the following anti-hate resolution. I'm going to leave out some of the whereases out of interest of time, because there are always a lot of whereases. Whereas America is a mosaic of people from every corner of the globe and a place that strives for racial, ethnic, cultural, and religious acceptance, and whereas the Township of Teaneck reflects the greater American community, and whereas the Township of Teaneck recognizes that violence against others due to their identity is not in keeping with American values, and whereas Teaneck rejects hate in all its forms, especially the type that results in violence against any particular group, and whereas Teaneck rejects the labeling of groups as being less valued than any other group, and whereas Teaneck values its diverse and culturally rich community, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Teaneck, Bergen County, New Jersey, that the Township of Teaneck rejects hate in all its forms and will strive to be the example of racial, religious, and ethnic acceptance, will foster an environment of inclusion and acceptance in all township-sanctioned events, will ask its state leaders to be active in fighting hatred in all its forms through the legislative process, and will foster an environment in all township events that promote the values of inclusion and acceptance. The Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck hereby requests that the council reaffirm this resolution in conjunction with tonight's resolution condemning anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Doug, somebody on Zoom?
Gail Gordon, let's try again.
Gail, you are free to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Gail.
Great, great. I would like to support the comments made by Phil Yutt previously. And I would like to also add to this that I would like to see the council conduct some concrete actions to help with the divisions in our town. I have become very upset with the divisions, and I think that the council could take a more active leadership role. And I think that the council in many ways has promoted the divisions rather than help the divisions. I think one big step in doing that would be to reiterate the resolution of 2020 that Mr. Yuck just read tonight, because we really need to come together. I can't tell you how upset I've been about the divisions and about the community that I once loved. And I'm having a lot of trouble. And I would really like to see the council take hold and do something about it, concrete actions, whatever that might be. I think you are leaders and I respect you and I think you can figure it out. So I would like to ask you to do that. And I would like to ask you to, what is it called? Reapprove the 2020 resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Ms. Schwartz.
I didn't actually intend to speak tonight, and I don't have anything prepared, but Gail was in and out, and I think I want to echo what she was saying as a member of the Coalition for Neighborhood Associations, and also just speaking for myself as a 40-plus year resident of Teaneck. I've been here a long time, and Teaneck has been through a lot. I don't think I have ever experienced more divisiveness in this town than I'm experiencing now with the different divisions between different groups in town. Now, with regard to the resolution to condemn anti-Semitism, I wholeheartedly approve of that. I think it makes sense. We are seeing rampant anti-Semitism throughout the country and certainly in our town. So I think just as we supported and came out against racism and supported the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's appropriate to support this resolution. Having said that, I think with all the divisiveness in this town and looking at our diverse population, we are not just a community of Jews. We are not just a community of Muslims. We are not just a community of African Americans, of heterosexuals, of homosexuals, of transgender. We have it all. We're a diverse community like no other community that I know. We are seeing hate across this country, not only anti-Semitism, but we are seeing Islamophobia, certainly. We are seeing hate crimes against our gay brothers and sisters. We're seeing hate crimes against transgender people. You know, there's a lot of hate to go around. And I really do think that in addition to supporting the resolution, standing firm against anti-Semitism, we also need to reaffirm this resolution of 2022, where the council supports ending hate of all kinds. I think that covers everything. And I think to bring this community together, I think just whatever the resolution is, when we just address one group and we don't look at the whole community, it causes a lot of hard feelings and it causes divisiveness. And I think a way to bring unity to our town is to just condemn hate wherever it exists. So I just want to urge this council to adopt this resolution, standing strong against anti-Semitism, but also to stand strong against hate of any kind. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I, wait a minute, do I still have time?
You have 15 seconds.
Okay, just on another totally other topic. I'm a member of the Teaneck Garden Club, Mayor Pagan, and you had asked about budget issues. And I don't know if the council's aware, but the garden club needs a new greenhouse. And it's probably, we are aware of it. Okay, so just needed to throw that in.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Sally Gellert.
Yes, hi. I'm a lifelong Bergen County resident. This anti-Semitism resolution has become divisive. It does not advance peace and goodwill as it would intend to, especially during Arab American Heritage Month. It's an insensitive time to do this. We're not grappling with the current reality of the Netanyahu government, which is not Judaism writ large. Compared to the majority of the Jewish population, especially here in the States, what Netanyahu is doing is not right. Judaism and Zionism are different. Even Quaker Steve Chase differentiates two branches of Zionism. The one that we all like, that was looking for peace and freedom for all, living together, and the one with the theocratic supremacist agenda. So please pass a resolution, reaffirm your resolution, calling for, opposing hatred of all types. A resolution perhaps calling for nonviolence and ceasefire. Not focusing it on addressing simple anti-Semitism. As hard as that is, it's as no more hard than Islamophobia or anti-homosexuality or any of the others. Yeah, I've seen signs, saying hate has no home here. So you shouldn't be limiting this to anti-Semitism. It's all hatred that we don't want in our town, in our county, in our state. So please drop this resolution, reaffirm the earlier resolution that was read that really says what we would like, to hear from our governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Youssef.
Hello, Yusuf Abdullah, Teaneck resident. Pro-Palestinian protesters outside town hall chanting "Gas them." A Muslim Teaneck resident stating she was going to blow up this town. Outside agitators from Patterson being bussed into Teaneck to cause havoc. Very alarming claims, false claims. These are some of the disgusting Islamophobic anti-Arab lies that have been spewed by my council members. I will not mention any specific names. If those of you in the audience are curious about who I'm talking about on the council, just look up at the ones staring at me in disgust. Yes, them. Mayor Pagan, I would like to ask you a question. Why has Islamophobic rhetoric been normalized in your council? We can no longer ignore bigotry coming from our governing body. It has become evident. Muslims do not matter in Teaneck. Arabs do not matter in Teaneck. Palestinians do not matter in Teaneck. Humanity does not matter in Teaneck. You have lied about us to our faces in public meetings, recorded meetings. You have refused to acknowledge or apologize for these lies. Yet you encourage private dialogue with my community. You showed us what lies you're capable of in a public forum. Why would anyone in their right minds reach out to you in private? Providing cell phone numbers and emails, it's all smoke and mirrors, only to throw in our faces when no one reaches out. Accusing community members of having fake accents. Everyone knows that if an Arab speaks with any accent other than a stereotypical Middle Eastern accent, it must be fake. I hope the way I speak is acceptable to this council. Forcing people to put their full names on Zoom calls so you could research them. If that's not intimidation, I don't know what is. Forcing callers to turn on the cameras, failing to take into account that the women of my faith have modesty, and maybe they don't want to show their faces to the public from within their own homes. Maybe they shouldn't call in. Maybe they don't deserve to have their voices heard, because at the end of the day, we don't matter in Teaneck. Islamophobia has no safe space in Teaneck. Hatred in any form has no safe space in Teaneck. Bigotry has found its home amongst its council, further dividing the community for political clout. You are here to fight for the interests of every Teaneck resident, not to use your platform to support a genocide in real time, a man-made famine in 2024. The world once said, never again, but I guess this is the one-time exception. Who on this council will ensure that Teaneck is safe for my community? Who on this council will make sure that my young children don't get harassed while walking to AUCC? Who on this council will make sure that knives aren't pulled out on the women of my community again? Who on this council will condemn men spitting at our women as was done on Sunday? I will end with a quote from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Doug, somebody on Zoom?
Yehudit Robinson. Please state your name for the record. Give me 1 second. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Yehudit Robinson, and I live in Teaneck with my husband and 4 children. Thank you to Deputy Mayor G for presenting a proposal to commemorate Juneteenth. My older children are students at Ben Porat Yosef, and I am proud that my children's school has been commemorating Juneteenth for many years. As a child, I was deeply influenced by learning about the courage of Harriet Tubman and especially the bravery of Black soldiers who fought for the Union Army during the Civil War. I am deeply supportive of a day to gather and learn, reflect, and engage in acts of service commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans in America. I also want to commend the proclamation establishing April as National Poetry Month in Teaneck. I love reading poetry. My big kids enjoy making poetry. And what better way to celebrate spring if not by enjoying some sonnets while tending our budding blossoms in our yards? I've been reflecting on Frost's Nature's First Green is Gold as I've watched spring vanquish the winter. To my Muslim neighbors, I greet you by saying marhaban, hello. We see each other driving around town in our matching minivans. We push our toddlers and carts through the aisles of Stop and Shop. Our kids play in the children's room at the Teaneck Library, and we connect in the local playgrounds. What message are we sending our children when car caravans continue to harass local residents, most recently with agitators from Philadelphia? These agitators are not interested in dialogue, but rather in shutting down streets to vehicle and foot traffic. People in your community may have connections to those who travel here, who often gather at the local AUCC. Please communicate to these outsiders that we Teaneck residents are neighbors and that none of us control what happens overseas. We need to know that you are taking an active stance to protect, calm, and maintain order. To the Teaneck residents who are waiting this out and not expressing a public opinion, please consider that silence is a form of assent. If you do not vocally oppose the car rallies, on some level, you are offering tacit endorsement of your local Jewish neighbors being targeted simply because we are Jews. The Anti-Defamation League's report that was issued this morning states that Bergen County has experienced the largest increase in anti-Semitic attacks in any county in New Jersey in 2023, a 269% increase in anti-Semitic attacks over 2022. Don't let Teaneck become a target of hate. I hope at the next town council meeting, I can have the opportunity to turn to my Muslim neighbors and say shukran, thank you. Thank you for insisting that we need to prioritize our relationships with each other over any international matters. Please, let's set an example for other communities about how we can rise above the venom and find salam, peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Ma'am?
Heidi Fuchs, Teaneck resident for 52 years. I came tonight to speak about local issues as Teaneck, New Jersey is where my story begins. I hope the township will consider regular bulk garbage pickup like they do in Bergenfield. For instance, bulk is April 17th in Q3. I support the two resolutions put forth to end Jewish hate and to recognize Juneteenth. Mostly, I support the words of council members who stated on March 19th, harassment, threats, and intimidation are wrong. So is all hatred, and for their commitment to care for and advocate for all 40,000 residents of Teaneck, to work for a wonderful quality of life for all communities within our township, to always seek solutions to problems, to ask difficult questions that residents want answers to, and to represent all residents. So it is with these words in mind that I share a horrible story of hate, harassment, and bias intimidation that happened to me the day after the last town council meeting. Teaneck for Palestine, an Instagram account managed by a Teaneck resident, excerpted the video of my comments before the council during Good and Welfare and posted a very twisted and out of context video version of them. This was a personal attack from a stranger. This resulted in a barrage of calls and texts from people checking on me to see if I was safe and how I was faring after the storm of hate and harassment. Unfortunately, I'm not the only Teaneck resident to be targeted by this resident's Instagram account. In the past, I've given the benefit of the doubt and spoken about outside agitators coming to our town to wreak havoc and interfere with our peace and unity. Sadly, this hate is coming from within Teaneck, the Teaneck that I grew up in, the Teaneck that I raised my children in, and the Teaneck that I call home. I reported this egregious and hateful act to the Teaneck Police Department and filed complaints with the Municipal Court, County Court, Attorney General, and the New Jersey Bias Crimes Unit. They are actively investigating this social media account and its owner to pursue appropriate charges. Additionally, the AUCC, also situated in Teaneck, is the address for all car rallies that drive through the town, honking horns, shouting at residents, and disrupting our peaceful lives. The AUCC's website states, by choosing AUCC, you're not just joining a fitness center, you're becoming a part of a movement that believes in the transformative power of health and kindness. To me, being kind means to be generous, helpful, and to care about people. It does not mean to be the address of hate. I implore this council to commit to addressing all forms of hate in this township and to act upon those who perpetuate hate, both individuals and organizations. I implore the council to work towards restoring this township to one where we are all happy that our story has begun here. Thank you.
Miss.
And also, I have two grandchildren whose birthdays are on Juneteenth, so we always celebrate, but we look forward to celebrating more.
Thank you, Miss. Doug, somebody on Zoom?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We are bringing in Jesse Leon. Please unmute, state your name for the record. Feel free to show your camera, Jesse.
My name is Jesse Leon. I'm a Teaneck resident for a little over 7 years. I will sound like a broken record, but I do not support any resolutions. I love Juneteenth. I think that it's one of the most deserving American holidays. I think that the emancipation of the slaves in practice, not just by decree, is the apotheosis of the promise of the founding of this country. I think that Jew hatred is a terrible thing, and I am aware of the increase in Jew hatred over the last year. I am aware of the history of Jew hatred. I was the youngest victim of anti-Semitic assault in Nassau County as a 11-year-old boy. So I completely agree with the gravamen of both of the resolutions that are on the table today. And I still object to the resolutions. And I object to reaffirming old resolutions. And I object to any resolution in the future. And I object to any town speech that is not directly related to the running of the town. Now, each of you as individuals have the First Amendment right to say whatever you want when it's your turn to speak from the dais, and that's great, and you should do that. This is America, and you have the absolute right to do so. And you can raise these issues, and you can put your personal statement on them. But stop speaking for the town and stop making the town speak, because you're reaping what you've sown. I mean, tonight you have a full room, and I'm sure that there are 500 people on Zoom waiting to talk just after me. And it's going to keep happening, because every time we do another resolution, we start arguing about it, and we're arguing about it, and we're arguing about it, and we're arguing about it. So if we stop doing resolutions and we stop patting ourselves in the back about how enlightened we are to other groups, and if we just live together. You know, this past Sunday, the Environmental Commission hosted a cleanup in the town in 4 different sites. I was there. I brought my 2 children. We spent an hour and a half picking up mostly liquor bottles in Argonne Park. And it was great. And it was nice to meet other residents, and it was nice to do something nice for the town. It was a real moment of unity and caring and volunteerism. And I can't wait for the October redo to do it again. And the town should be doing things like that. And we shouldn't be talking about things that are not germane to cleaning our parks and to paving our roads. You know, I live up the block from Teaneck Road. I'm experiencing the town paving the road. Thank you for that. As much of an inconvenience it is for the next 5 days, it will be great for me for the next couple of years until the roads are great again. But stop doing the thing that you don't really want to do, that you don't want to reap the results from. Just stop speaking for the town, and let us all live as a town and not as some sort of national microcosm of all these things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vatsky.
There's so much to say and so much hope. There's hope in this room. I've been sitting here 3 or 4 months. I come here again tonight. People want to get along. People in this room want to get along. They know history. They know some history. I don't think any of us know all the history. We've got to go back to the books, and we've got to go back to our relatives, and we've got to put things in context. Everything that's happened regarding Jews, I'm a Jew. I've always read about it. I always found out about it. I'm planning a trip to Auschwitz to experience it. I don't know how many of you have done that or want to do it. It's a new thought for me, but it's time, okay? My parents were born here. My grandparents came over before the Holocaust. And it scares me when I go to a Holocaust museum. I can feel my body shake. So I think I'm sensitive to that, but I'm also thinking about the millions of other people in this world who are not Jews, who have been persecuted and murdered all over the world, including in Teaneck, New Jersey, in our past, when we had slaves here. We were one of the last states to give up slaves in the North, right? We learned that from the slave cemetery. People make mistakes. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. What's the time?
What? 1 minute 14. Okay. Oh, suggestion, when you have the screen up, turn down these lights. We could barely see it here in the peanut gallery. All right? Turn down the lights. I'm an engineer. We can make things work, but you got to be sensitive to how things work. All right? Now, hate is real. We Americans, we are humans. We hate. We've done terrible things, and maybe we'll do some more again. But we've got to get control of ourselves. The resolutions, we can fight hard for resolutions. We pass a resolution, then what? What do we do after we pass a resolution? We have a resolution. Boom. I don't get it. I'm concerned that we raise motions, we drop them. I think people want, I'll repeat again, I think people here want to work together somehow with respect to each individual's past, what we're going through, what our neighbors are going through, what our families are going through. I have family in the IDF, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Vatsky. Thank you, sir.
And I have sympathy for the
Thank you, Mr.
Palestinians.
Vatsky. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Allison Gourier. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Please state your name for the record.
That's okay. Allison Gore, REA. I'd like to first acknowledge our neighbors here in Teaneck who are not Jewish and are not Muslim. So many are patiently waiting on the sidelines and wondering when these town council meetings will get back to normal Teaneck Township business, like replacing the bathrooms next to the pool at Votee Park or having recycling pick up on a weekly basis, because we can't be the only ones having trouble storing Amazon boxes for 2 weeks at a time, even flattened ones. Unfortunately, we are not back to that time yet, and I wish I could say we were. Sadly, here in the scenic and progressive suburb of Teaneck, New Jersey, in the United States of America, in the year 2024, unbelievably, the Jewish residents of Teaneck are fighting for the freedom to practice their religion in peace. Being Jewish nowadays in Teaneck means obnoxious car rallies from out-of-towners who don't care about traffic laws and who drive through your neighborhood and target you. They create noise pollution, shout obscene remarks, and come across in a threatening way. Just to walk around your neighborhood in identifiably Jewish garb, whether a head covering, a certain type of coat or suit, makes you a target. Non-car protests, like the traditional type of marching protest or protesting in one place without moving, can lead to Jews being verbally threatened and spit upon. After one of the earliest of the pro-Palestinian protests back on Monday, October 30th, foot traffic afterwards brought people on my street who stepped onto my neighbor's property to steal something Jewish and pro-Israel off their yard. It was outrageous. They walked onto their yard and had no regard for the boundary of safety. They invaded, and my neighbor rightfully expected. I don't like being here, stealing the spotlight away from the less dramatic business that normally takes place during these meetings. But we have to point out these things because they should be unacceptable to all of us in 2024. There are two competing interests in Teaneck right now. Number one is the freedom to practice the Jewish religion in peace versus number two, the freedom of speech for those who want to eliminate Jews from Teaneck or from the United States or from the Jewish religious homeland of Israel altogether. This should not be the case. This is not enlightened progressive behavior for the 21st century. Yes, it's a terrific thing to have different perspectives. That's why Teaneck is so wonderful. And it's okay to disagree. It's fine. It's healthy to disagree, but it's not civilized to torment others who do not agree with you or with me. This should not be the case. On a different note, I too would like to see Juneteenth as a formal holiday. I love Teaneck for the diversity of different peoples sharing the same town and hopefully living more harmoniously again soon.
Thank you, Miss. Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Howard Rose, Teaneck resident. I lived here about 44 years. I didn't grow up in Teaneck, but I'm sure as hell aging here. My perspective is on maybe two different vantage points, especially when it comes to areas of need of redevelopment. About a year and a half ago, I said out of about the 7 or so areas in need of redevelopment, the biggest one was actually the council itself. I hope we're not back at that point where you have to reevaluate who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. I mean, there's so much sentiment against the areas in need of redevelopment. Where is your listening ability? I wear hearing aids and I tell people sometimes, yeah, I have the battery in. I can hear you. I'm just not listening. That's how I feel is going on with the council at certain times. My vantage point is as a business person on Cedar Lane, tangent to the area being redeveloped on Cedar Lane, potentially. Area in need of redevelopment. Ill-conceived, ill-backed with data that was faulty in many areas. Unfortunately approved by the council. A boondoggle from the beginning, and it continues as a problem now. What are you going to do about it? So far, nothing good. Last council meeting, I was one of those 20 or 21 people who did not get to speak at Good and Welfare. I felt disenfranchised, and you actually disenfranchised a group of people by who they were, online people. You let one group speak, but not another group. That's inappropriate. I know you can do better. And then you ended Good and Welfare abruptly after that. That was by a majority vote. Again, I think ill-conceived, inappropriate. Don't disenfranchise people. This is the only place where they get to verbally be public and cite the heirs. If your desire is to get rid of Good and Welfare as a public situation from home with using Zoom, go back to the old days where it was anyone in council meeting had the right and ability to speak at Good and Welfare. That might decrease the number of people participating, and I feel bad if someone's handicapped and can't come here and speak and wants to speak, but I don't know what the best thing is for anyone. But think about it. Think about what you want to do and why you're doing it and why you're limiting it and how much you really should be limiting it. I usually speak without notes. This time I wrote about 15 words, and I can only read about half of them. Want to mention to you, food pantry. I hope people realize that a food pantry isn't just around seasonal holidays. People eat year round. I hope you give money. They don't need cans of beans or something wrapped. They need money because the people at the food pantry, helping hands, they know what their people need.
Thank you,
And my
Mr.
3 minutes are up.
Rose. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Jeffrey Esses.
Hi, how are you?
Great, we can hear you loud and clear. 3 minutes.
Okay, so I don't even know where to start tonight. There's so much going on. I'll start with, I agree with Mark Schwartz. We need to do something about Good and Welfare. I think it's too long. I do believe that people in Teaneck should be able to speak before people that don't live in Teaneck. I also believe that people who make the effort to go to the meeting, obviously those who can't because they're disabled, that's one thing, but those who make the effort to go to the meeting should be able to speak first. I was one of those 20-something that did not get to speak at the last meeting because I was on Zoom. I did not feel disenfranchised. I actually felt thankful that you cut it at 11 and you went on to the next part of the meeting, which is the council speaking, which I believe is a very important part of the meeting. So I support some form of compromise there that allows everybody an opportunity to speak, but does give preference to people in the room and also cuts it off at a certain point in time so that we, the residents of Teaneck, can hear you speak. As far as the budget, my big issue is we have, and I know the council says they have no say over the public school system. Not looking to cut the budget, just looking to start controlling it. It's a system that over the last 11, 12 years has lost 1,000 kids and has almost doubled its budget. I believe that the town council, considering that it is 2/3 of the town's budget, should be able to find a way to have a little bit of say or find a way for the town to have more of a say in what's being spent. Would love to see bulk pickup in Teaneck once a quarter. That would be fantastic. Make my life a lot easier. Wouldn't have to drive to someone's house in Bergenfield and drop off my bulk. I also believe, back to Mark Schwartz's thing, I believe that people who don't live in Teaneck should not speak. And if they do speak, it should be after everyone in Teaneck has spoken. I think a reporter speaking or somebody from Fort Lee, very nice. I'm sure they both meant well. But I don't think that that's appropriate. And I would leave on this note is people keep talking about how we are separate as a town. I actually don't really agree. I think that there are extremes on both ends of this town. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in today, driven by multiple factors. But I believe that a good 80 to 90% of Teaneck wants to get along. They want to be a community. And I think that if we stop focusing on the extremes and focus on the people in the middle, I think what we would find is we have a lot more in common, and we could all work together to solve a lot of the things that need to be solved in this community. Thank you to the council for the hard work you do and for the hours you put in. Wouldn't want to do it myself, but I think you guys do a great job, and appreciate all 7 of you putting in the time and the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Hello, good evening. I'm Rachel Sorolnik. I want to encourage our town council to pass 2 important resolutions tonight, one denouncing anti-Semitism and one acknowledging the painful experience of enslaved Africans and celebrating the end of slavery in the U.S. As a Jewish American, I am disturbed by the precipitous rise of anti-Semitism in the U.S. since the massacre in Israel on October 7th, and alarmed by the hate crimes targeted at Jews is highest in Bergen County among all counties in New Jersey. Hearing that the Holocaust is a divisive issue and not worthy of commemoration by your entire community from a faith leader is absolutely shocking, and our community can do better. I appreciate that our town council deems it a priority to call out this hatred and works to ensure that Teaneck is a place where Jews can live freely and without impinging on their First Amendment rights. Understanding that my experience is different than that of the Black community, as a Jewish American, I appreciate and empathize with the struggles of that community, acknowledging the hurdles that they have faced and the battle against racism, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn from others and live in this diverse town. Segueing from these resolutions, spring has sprung in Teaneck, and it is so nice to see children and adults alike enjoying the beautiful weather outside. 2 of my sons play baseball on Teaneck teams, and I want to call attention to the condition of Argonne Park, where my boys sometimes play. A friend of mine in the northeast area of Teaneck pointed out to me that this park could use some love and attention. There is an abandoned kiddie pool that is not only an eyesore, but it attracts congregating at night and behavior that residents don't necessarily want. I love to think of creative uses for this neglected pool. I know there was conversations about a potential skate park, and I think this may be a great location for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Once again, are there any clergy in the room that would like to speak? Any clergy? No? Doug, someone on Zoom, please.
Umair Farouk, please unmute, state your name for the record. Thank you for your patience.
Good evening. My name is Umair Farouk.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. Evening, council members and fellow Teaneck residents. Where do I begin? Okay, a lot being said this evening, but let me just start by reading some events. On October, Wadia El Fayon, 6-year-old Palestinian boy, stabbed to death while the murderer yelled, "You Muslims must die," in Illinois. November, shooting of 3 students of Palestinian descent during a Thanksgiving break. They were just talking and hanging out on the street in Vermont. And then in January, on Columbia University campus, pro-Palestinian group, both Muslim and Jewish, in protest. The group was attacked and people were hospitalized with serious injuries. With a current ongoing investigation, still no arrest or progress since January. And now in April, a Muslim woman being harassed by the car in the next lane while the backseat passenger yelling racial slurs, and then the driver of the vehicle brandishing a knife, all caught on video. That woman ticketed for using her phone while driving. Unfortunately, the officer disregarded the assault she had just experienced. Now, given the preceding events and what had happened in the past, what if these guys decided to act? Now, how is it that when we talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict, if we don't condemn Hamas immediately, labeled as anti-Semitic, but no one condemns Israel for its ethnic cleansing? No one in the support of apartheid state say, yes, we support the state, but let's call out the war crimes. Why not have universal values across the board? Now, as to going back to why we're still talking about this, the previous events was like a punch in the gut. How many of us would shake hands with a person that recently just punched us in the gut without any apology or any indication of remorse? The events such as which have taken place in Teaneck against high school students, women being called Jihadi Jane. I want to know what steps is being taken to keep my family, my community safe. What actions are being done? Where is the balance in the council? Where is the leadership required for unity?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are you the high school student in the back? And it is a school night, so please feel free to come up. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Council. Hi, my name is Deborah Luber. I am 16 years old. I am a lifelong resident of Teaneck. I'm your neighbor, your resident, and your constituent. Living in Teaneck, I've always had a somewhat idealized view of our town. Growing up, I learned that Teaneck is what's known as a majority-minority community, and that it's made up of mainly minorities. I took pride in knowing that Teaneck was the very first majority white town to voluntarily integrate our school systems. I would frequent the library, the parks, the local businesses, and interact with people who on the surface seem very different than me. I learned that so often beyond our superficial differences, we're not that divided. In this progressive, diverse town of Teaneck, I felt safe. Teaneck was a town for everyone, no matter your race, your religion, your age, or your ethnicity. Teaneck had been my vision of diversity, of coexistence, and of community. Recently, though, I felt a shift. Over the past few months, as I've looked at the climate of our town, the word that comes to mind is not unity or progress or coexistence. Instead, the word that comes to mind is division. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm being judged not by the content of my character, but by the symbol that hangs around my neck. I feel fear that I hope the Jewish people would never have to feel again after the ghettos of Poland, the Iron Curtain of Russia, and the expulsion from Iraq. I feel fear not only for myself, but for the very fabric of our town. Teaneck is divided. I can see the seeds of hatred being planted and sprouting. I can see tensions rising and anger erupting. Teaneck, a town built on diversity and progress, is being reduced to a divided hotbed of hatred and violence. Tonight, 2 important resolutions are put forward. One for end Jewish hate and leading into May, Jewish Heritage Month. The other is recognizing Juneteenth, the day the last slaves in the American South were emancipated. As the Jews of Teaneck are preparing to celebrate Passover and commemorate our own journey from slavery to freedom, I stand with the Black members of our community in their commemoration of their own journey and their own emancipation. I see both of these resolutions as absolutely essential in protecting the Teaneck I know, the Teaneck built on acceptance and coexistence, the Teaneck that stands against hatred and against violence. Stand together with me, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, or age, to pass these resolutions and to usher in a better and brighter Teaneck. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luber.
Jasmine Ray, please unmute, state your name for the record.
Hello, my name's Jasmine Ray. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Miss.
Awesome. My name is Jasmine Ray, and I refuse to be berated into silence. Thank you to the town council for completely ignoring my testimony on the abuse I was subjected to in exercising my constitutional rights, instead worrying more about your bruised egos. This not only showed me yet again just how short your empathy truly stretches, but also gave your supporters license to further display their violent misogynoir. Here are a couple of things said about me for speaking out. One person called me a black mosquito with a mask on. At least she's considerate, trying to filter out the shit that's spewing from that filthy mouth. Imagine the viruses that would otherwise be circulating from that dirtbag. Another woman said, wow, when I see her in a cotton field, thirsty, I'll walk on. And another person said, you know, I wasn't a racist person, but because I spoke up, I'm turning her into one. Another person said that the kafaya is the new swastika of today and masks represent terrorists. And another person said, send this creature to Gaza or back to Africa. Fuck Zots. They sit here and think life owes them something. Poor me, I'm black. This is not okay. Not only did Adam in New Jersey, the originator of the thread, bastardize my message, purposely misquoting me to incite racist backlash, it only further proved the validity of what I did say on April 2nd. Council members, you are all guilty of using fear as a method of control, whether it's to get your Jewish constituents at large to fear their neighbors or to threaten non-white Teaneck residents into submission. Stop supporting hate speech by demonstrating anti-Blackness and anti-Arab bigotry at these meetings and on your individual platforms. At the last meeting, Councilman Schwartz admitted to looking up constituents he disagrees with online. Why do you feel entitled to the personal details of your constituents? Also at the last meeting, Councilwoman Oregon doubled down on her
Ms.
use
Ray,
of
if you could address
anti-Black
the
dog
council as a
whistles
whole, please.
and asserted that she will continue to be anti-Black with no remorse. On April 6th, Councilwoman Goldberg used her platform to laugh at
Ms.
genocidal
Ray,
rhetoric
address the council
on
as a whole
Facebook
if you can,
and
please,
incite
Ms. Ray.
harassment against
Thank you.
other constituents she disagrees with on her professional Instagram. Do the rest of the Teaneck Town Council agree with these blatant abuses of power? So I'm no longer asking. I'm demanding that these council members I named will be taken out of office and held accountable for the repeated misconduct. That is all, and free Palestine.
Someone on this side, Ms. Khan?
Mr. Mayor, can we just remind the rules about names, please?
Yep, I did a couple times. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I want to first of all heartily congratulate my brother Shyam Khan, a brother from another mother, same last name. We got lucky there. For exemplifying what service should be in Teaneck. He is an amazing role model, and also congratulations to Yab if you're still here for your very deserving merit award tonight. I'm here to read a statement on behalf of One Town, One Vote. One Town, One Vote is the people's movement that helped move Teaneck town elections from May to November, successfully increasing voter turnout dramatically and promoting democracy in Teaneck. We'd like to express our deep concern regarding recent actions by certain council members on this council to limit public comment during good and welfare. This reflects an attempt by the council majority to suppress our voices and to limit public participation. Allowing all voices is part of the process of democracy through open dialogue and transparent decision-making. Cutting short good and welfare, either in person or on Zoom, and I cannot imagine anyone waiting on Zoom and not feeling disenfranchised. That seems very strange to me. Deprives people of a chance to voice their opinions, and responsibility of the council members is to hear those opinions, and that's why we have elected you to the dais. Also, let me remind the council as well as my fellow residents that the Open Public Meetings Act does not specify that people who speak at public comment should only be residents. They can be any members of the public. So these actions by this council not only undermine the principles of democracy in our town, but also alienate people who wish to contribute meaningfully to what they think is the betterment of our community. We urge the council to actively work towards creating a more inclusive and open forum for residents to engage with local governance. We are all neighbors. We'd like to live in a Teaneck that thrives. A thriving community is one where residents feel empowered to voice their opinions and concerns without fear of being reprimanded or suppressed. By fostering an environment of open communication and collaboration, we can work together, moving Teaneck forward together towards a stronger and more vibrant Teaneck. This is one of the goals listed on the One Town, One Board Charter, and therefore, for this reason, One Town, One Board is opposed to limiting good and welfare in any way, either in person or on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have a phone number starting with 917, ending with 32. Please unmute, state your name for the record. You have been given permission to speak. Your hand is raised. Number 917, ending in number 32. I think you need to press *9 maybe to unmute. *9, *6. 917, we will come back to you. I'm bringing in Kevin Lazaroff.
Hi, 30-year Teaneck resident, was born in Holy Name Hospital. I went through the Teaneck school system and I'm now raising 2 children, here back in Teaneck again. It's been unbelievably upsetting to see the town that I've grown up so proud of and loving turn into kind of a hotbed of division and anger. I find it really kind of ironic, or like maybe not ironic, council members who are talking about how we need to cut this forum short because we need to get to the business of the town, when a majority of the people who are speaking at these events are only speaking, whether it be in opposition or for these town speeches about issues going on not in this town. And so that is creating the division. It is not, so shortening this time is not going to do anything in that regard. Another thing that I wasn't planning on talking about, but I heard somebody mention, this Holocaust memorial, and that this is something that we should, support because it's remembering a really horrible time, and it's paying homage to that. I would hope that everybody would then have the same feelings about town money going to, say, a memorial for the children and people of Gaza who have been murdered over the last 6 months. If we're going to be doing these types of dedications, let's not be one-sided with it. I'm for a Holocaust memorial. I'm for an eventual Gaza genocide memorial. So those are some things that I think, let's be consistent. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing I just want to mention is, as of today, the current count of people killed in Gaza is 33,843. That's not the Hamas numbers. That is the numbers that have been verified by the Israeli government and United States government. That is we're getting close to the amount of people basically being the same as every single person in Teaneck dying. Imagine if tomorrow or in 6 months, 90% of Teaneck was gone, turned to rubble, people buried under rubble, children bombed at playgrounds like today, where over 11 children were murdered on a playground in Gaza. This is happening somewhere else. So I understand that this is not the most important business, but it becomes that when representatives of the town decide to speak for us and stand with genocide straight up and use the Holocaust as a cudgel. Last thing I'll say, ADL definition of anti-Semitism everybody's been using also includes pro-Palestine rallies. So that's not.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Your time is up. Mr. Alan Sohn.
Alan Sohn, Teaneck resident, proud Zionist. I was digging deep in the archives and found an article in the Suburbanite from September 2017, more than 6 years ago, about steps towards construction of a pair of memorials on the municipal green. The article said plans are moving forward for the construction of 2 memorials on the Township Green that will be dedicated to the victims of the slave trade and another to commemorate victims of the Holocaust. Quote, the goal is to give us, all of us, a look back at some things we've done in the past that we're not necessarily proud of in the hopes of doing things better in the future, said then Deputy Mayor Henry Pruitt. The Township Library and other groups will provide related education programs related to both slavery in the United States and the Holocaust. The 2 memorials, together to be called the Garden to Nurture Human Understanding, are particularly needed in today's charged political climate. Again, 6 years ago, leaders of the Holocaust Memorial Committee said then, current events are, quote, a stark reminder of how important it is to have a place where people can come to learn about the Holocaust and ensure it will never happen again. The idea for the memorials began in 2013, hoping to build a memorial in Andreas or Brett Park. But, quote, council members instead suggested the municipal green as a central site. The Enslaved Africans Memorial Committee approached the council in 2015. Both groups are in the midst of a substantial fundraising effort to cover the costs at their expense. Looking back, I worked with both committees to see both succeed. I had always hoped that both projects would proceed side by side, develop designs, raise funds, and rise at the same time. I had hoped that people would come to visit a Holocaust memorial and then walk over and learn about the experience of enslaved Africans, and that those visiting the Enslaved African Monument would learn about the Holocaust. With the 2 advancing at different speeds, we have a choice. We can try to lift both monuments up, or we can try to drag both of them down. I thank Steve Fox and I thank the Holocaust Memorial Committee for their work to revise the scope of their monument. They have a path to success and they have my full support. I also support working towards the success of the Enslaved African Monument. We must recognize that people of all races, ethnicities, and other categories have been targets of hate, that we humans have acted horrifically to other groups of humans. But we must also be sure to verify that specific group experiences are recognized. The 2 monuments to the Holocaust and to enslaved Africans have never been more necessary than at any time before in our history. I pray that they both succeed on the municipal green. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Council, for
Mr.
your
Song.
consideration.
Doug, someone on Zoom?
Bringing in Ellie Katz, not the one who's already here.
Good evening. My name is Ellie Katz, Teaneck resident. Good evening, council members. I would like to comment on the recent and ongoing unsafe pro-Palestinian caravans that have disrupted the streets of Teaneck and our quality of life. As written on one of many Instagram posts, let's be respectful to the Islamic Center of Passaic County for allowing us to gather here. No honking, no loud music, no revving of vehicles. Let's be respectful to our neighborhood, but once we leave Passaic, we can start being loud. As most recent as this Sunday, April 14th, 2024, these caravans have spread hate and negativity, acted with demeaning behavior, operated vehicles in a reckless manner, and in open defiance of New Jersey motor vehicle laws. I personally was afraid to take my children to ride their bikes, my dog for a walk, and enjoy what our beautiful town has to offer. Fearful of my children to learn of the continued hate that exists in this world simply because of their religion and existence. A friend of mine's daughter recently got her license and was scared and unsure how to negotiate a traffic light when dozens of vehicles were actively driving against a red light, drivers and passengers alike hanging out of their cars with their middle fingers waving and hands held high with a Nazi salute. This reckless behavior displayed not only endangered the lives of our elderly, our children, our police, our citizens, but jeopardizes the integrity of our town, our way of life, and instills fear among pedestrians and other motorists. Laws are in place for all people and should be enforced for all people. And these actions are unacceptable and have no place in our home and our society. As a concerned resident, I thank you and the Teaneck Police for the continued professionalism and dedication. And I continue to call upon you, our Township Council, to work with the appropriate authorities to take immediate and decisive action to address this important issue. I urge the immediate implementation of stricter regulations and enforcement measures to deter future instances of this deplorable behavior in Teaneck. Hate has no home here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The lady in the back row.
Good evening, Shuruk Awadullah. I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Brother Shyam Khan and the advisory youth on receiving the Matthew Feldman Community Service Award. I'm speaking today to address a pressing issue that has been on the minds of many in our community. While I've heard numerous concerns raised about peaceful car rallies, I have yet to witness our Jewish neighbors standing up against the bigotry displayed by some of our elected council members at every single meeting. It's disheartening that instead of moving forward, we seem to be caught in a vicious circle, endlessly entangled in divisive resolutions. Rather than proposing measures that foster a sense of safety, visibility, and value for all members of our community, this council's actions appear to be exasperating tensions and turning us against one another. Regarding the proposed resolutions to end Jewish hate and recognize Juneteenth, I firmly believe that we must unequivocally stand against hate in all its forms, irrespective of whom it targets. Additionally, I want to draw attention to the fact that last year the governor declared April as Arab American Heritage Month. In light of the rising tide of anti-Semitic rhetoric and attacks against Muslim Arabs, particularly Palestinians, it is imperative that we acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of Arab Americans to our community. Arabs are Semites, and as such, any increase in anti-Semitism or hate directed toward them should be met with firm condemnation. Therefore, I urge the Council to pass the proposed resolution to end Arab hate and recognize Arab American Heritage Month. This month should serve as an opportunity for education and fostering a deeper understanding of Arab culture and history. The world once said, never again. Never again is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have Ziad Mala. Please unmute and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Z. I've been a Teaneck resident for 16 years. Teaneck is my home, and today I'm joining this meeting as a concerned citizen and a community member. The other day, a fellow community member was assaulted in broad daylight on Teaneck Road. She was spit on, called racial slurs, and threatened with a knife. Police were present and unresponsive to the situation as it unfolded. This is so disturbing, and I'm concerned for our community's safety in the face of these threats and further disappointed in TPD's response to this occurrence. I implore this council and the police department to do everything they can to ensure another incident like this is not allowed to happen again and to actually take steps to protect members of our community from those who respond to peaceful protest with violence. I implore this council to reconsider its stance and propose resolutions and rhetoric which represent a dangerous slide toward fascism. Making motions to limit speech during good and welfare and restrict rights of our community to engage in civic protest is unconstitutional. It's un-American, and it's a gross misuse of this council's power. I suggest instead you look to pass resolutions which affirm everyone's collective right to safety in this town. Nearly 6 months ago, this council passed a one-sided resolution which failed to acknowledge immense Palestinian loss and suffering. When towns, cities, and most recently the state of New Jersey have called for ceasefire resolutions across the country, this council continues to vilify minorities and blame them for their own suffering, demonstrating their utter lack of humanity, going so far as to pass resolutions with the express aim to suppress us as we protest and speak in town council meetings is none other than an adoption of fascist policy. These protests have nothing to do with the Jewish community of Teaneck, and it has everything to do with our institutions continuing to uphold and perpetuate lies which contribute directly to the genocide of our people in the homeland. There have been no calls for violence against the Jewish community at Sunday's protest or any of the protests in Teaneck, but we have been faced with violence. So once again, I implore you all to reconsider passing another divisive resolution and instead focus on bringing this community together. That is the only way out of this mess that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
I am Mindy Stein, a 44-year Teaneck resident. I want to thank the Town Council for passing unanimously last year both resolutions which promote unity and understanding among all people. I hope that both of these resolutions will once again be passed unanimously. Anti-Semitism was already on the rise before the October 7th heinous massacre of babies, innocent Nova Festival goers, teenagers, women, men, the elderly, and even whole families. But now, following the October 7th attacks on innocent Israeli citizens, some of them Americans and foreigners who are still being held hostage, Jews around the world, including in America, and sadly to say, even in Teaneck, have endured and continue to endure record-breaking levels of anti-Semitic attacks and hate. We cannot allow anti-Semitic terrorist groups backed by Iran, nor their supporters here in the U.S., to spread hateful messages and false narratives that threaten Jews and disrupt our daily lives. In January of this year, the Anti-Defamation League recorded that there had been more than 3,200 anti-Semitic incidents, and that was just in the first 3 months after October 7th. Defending the rights of Palestinians should not turn into an anti-Jewish hate crusade, as we have witnessed since the Hamas terror attack on October 7th, a brutal pogrom. I feel for the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza, but what created this suffering was Hamas crossing over the Israeli border, going house to house, slaughtering innocent people, and taking hundreds of hostages, and then fighting by embedding itself within civilians and using them as human shields in their homes, mosques, schools, and hospitals. People who are really pro-Palestinian should be protesting Hamas, who is the cause of Palestinian suffering, not Jews in Teaneck and around the world. If the hostages were released and Hamas surrendered, the war would end immediately. Jews attending services or events in a synagogue, or even Jews walking in the street in their town, do not deserve to be demeaned, just as Muslims entering a mosque or walking in the street, or Christians arriving in a church or walking in the street should be subjected to such objectionable and offensive conduct. And if any Jew is engaging in such conduct against Muslims or Christians, I condemn it. Even though hate speech is protected by the Constitution, we must learn to live with and respect those who are different than we are. We cannot fight anti-Semitism alone, but we shouldn't have to, because an attack on Jews is an attack on all of us. We must learn to fight hate together. To quote Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, anti-Semitism matters, not because it is an assault on Jews, but because it is an assault on all humanity. I also was shocked that an imam would oppose a Holocaust wall and consider it divisive. I wish we could call for a ceasefire, but if Israel does not eliminate the last 4 brigades in Rafah, Hamas will rearm and recognize, and as Hamas said, there will be more October 7th.
Thank you. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Sherry Ann Eid. Sherry
Hi.
Ann Eid, please state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Sherry Hanid. I'm a 35-year resident of Teaneck. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Being part of these council meetings is exhausting. Just listening to folks, still not getting it, still not understanding. Being pro-Palestine is not anti-American. It's quite the opposite. We are voicing our support for people who are oppressed, who've been oppressed for 75 years. None of the rallies that have been in Teaneck have involved any hate speech. I'm not sure if anybody here has attended any of them, but they do not involve any hate speech towards Jewish people. I'm glad that the town council is recognizing ending Jewish hate or denouncing Jewish hate. I would hope that you draw up a resolution that also denounces hate in all forms. But what are you doing to back up those resolutions? Is it just words, pretty words on paper, or is it actual action? Same goes for the Juneteenth. Are we just celebrating our diversity in a performative, tokenizing way, or are we backing it up with something of substance? Growing up in this town, I went through the school system, and one of the biggest things we always talked about was the diversity and the diversity and the diversity. But where's the true diversity when we're here speaking month after month, meeting after meeting, and telling you how we feel, and nobody's listening on the council? So I'm just not sure what these resolutions actually do if they're not backed up with any substance, if it's just pretty words on paper to make us feel good. It doesn't make us feel good. It's dividing us more. And to speak to those who are saying people keep speaking about international problems, well, guess what? International problems become domestic problems. And if we don't care about our brothers and sisters all across the world, then what type of humans are we? What are we showing our children? So it's important for us to denounce genocide. It's important for us to denounce hate. It is important for us to appreciate all of us and our differences in a way that's not performative, in a way that's not tokenizing, in a way that's true. So I would hope that the council, instead of coming up with these empty resolutions, actually backs it up with some sort of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogovan.
Paula Rogovan, 41-year resident of Teaneck. I want to congratulate Shyam Khan on being awarded the Matthew Feldman Award for his outstanding work, and the youth of the Advisory Board of Community Relations for their outstanding work for the Teaneck community. At the same time, I want to tell the town council and residents that we have documented, and the police are aware, that a woman, a Teaneck resident, dumped bags of dog feces next to the ceasefire sign on Shyam's lawn. Shyam's Muslim. I am Jewish. Similar bags of dog feces were placed on my lawn. The mayor is aware of that. When the woman was told by the police that the police were aware of this, she refused to cooperate. This shouldn't happen to anyone, whatever sign we choose to place on our lawns. It shouldn't happen to any one of us. In January 2022, the Teaneck Council passed a very important resolution, which was referred to earlier. The resolution was passed. It opposes hate in Teaneck, hate in all of its forms. It's very, very important that tonight the Teaneck Council reaffirm, memorialize this resolution. This resolution is what we should all stand for, what we should all work for, which all candidates for the town council or the school board should pledge to uphold. And we should act on this resolution to make sure that there is no hate in Teaneck. I'm Jewish, and I want to make clear that calling for a ceasefire in Gaza is not anti-Semitism. Calling for immediate humanitarian aid for Gaza is not anti-Semitism. Since the horrific killing of civilians on October 7th, more than 34,000 people in Gaza have been killed, more than 14,000 of them children, 17,000 have been orphaned. I hope people will not accuse me or others of anti-Semitism when we call for an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian aid to Gaza, where so many people are near starvation. Here in Teaneck, the council praised the Teaneck Ambulance Corps for the successful effort to save one life. Commending TVAC volunteers was good. It is good. It's the right thing to do. Why would we not call for efforts to stop the killing of civilians in Gaza or elsewhere on this earth?
Thank you, Paula. Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keith Kaplan, Teaneck resident. Forgive me for updating his language, but James Baldwin also wrote a genuinely candid confrontation between the American Blacks and American Jews would certainly prove of inestimable value. But the aspirations of the country are wretchedly middle class, and the middle class can never afford candor. I think about that often because life's always a bit more complicated than how it's described.
If we can please have quiet in the audience.
You may find it hard to believe that I authored the first Juneteenth resolutions for Teaneck, or that when AUCC had a barrage of angry residents at its planning board hearings, I was ridiculed for standing up for their right to exist in that space. You'd probably be shocked to hear that Saudi Arabia acknowledged it helped the newly formed regional coalition of Israel, the US, Jordan, the UK, and France repel an Iranian attack. There are Muslims in this world right now working with Jews against evil. That's the model we once professed in Teaneck and one we should find. Amina al-Husani is a 7-year-old Bedouin Israeli child severely injured by an Iranian missile. And this is the first time her name's being said. We should all pray for her and pray together against evil. Regarding Teaneck issues, I noticed that on this week's Board of Education agenda, they're talking about the renovation at Bryan Elementary School. I wanted to inquire whether the plans will be reviewed by the planning board here pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-31. That says the planning board shall review and issue findings concerning any long-range facilities plans submitted to the board pursuant to the Education Facilities Construction and Financing Act. Separately, I wanted to inquire whether or not the current code is in conflict between public zones, P zones, where schools, public schools are allowed, and residential zones where schools have different rules. As I'm sure you're aware, or the attorney can tell you, 40:55D-66 says no zoning ordinance governing the use of land for schools shall, by any of its provisions or any regulation adopted in accordance therewith, discriminate between public and private nonprofit day schools of elementary or high school grade accredited by the State Department of Education. Teaneck section 33-24.33, the P zones, allows, as I mentioned, a permitted use for public, but not private schools. It discriminates on the types. The only permitted zones for private schools have conditional use criteria, which do not exist for the public schools in the P zone, like the Bryan School. The zoning, as I mentioned above, creates and contrasts different rules for different types of land. Bryan School, if held to the same standard as the 61 Church Street property applicant, would need an additional 5 acres of land. Will it? In sum, it appears that our code is treating certain applicants different than others, and it's doing so in violation of state law. These state laws, I will add,
Thank you,
were
Mr.
created
Kaplan.
to keep Blacks and
Thank you,
Jews
Mr.
out
Kaplan.
of this
Your time is
town.
up, sir. Mr. Siegel.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Rich Siegel. I've been the victim of an egregious libel committed by a member of this council. It's a video entitled Anti-Semite of the Week. It has a photo of me with my name. It has a photo of another Teaneck resident with that resident's name. It accuses us of being part of a group of, quote, monsters. It accuses us of being part of a, quote, hateful mob with pitchforks. I got in touch with the town council and I threatened to sue for libel. I got in touch with that individual and threatened to sue for libel. As a result, that video has been removed from 2 Instagram accounts. However, that didn't really mitigate the damage because we all know how the internet works. Once the video is up, it's up. I've heard that it's been featured on Keith Kaplan's Facebook page, Teaneck Today. I can't really communicate the level of disgust I feel. I think that this type of adolescent behavior should have been met with immediate dismissal from the town council.
If we can please have quiet in the audience so that we can hear him speak. Thank you.
Oh, I like the applause. And I'm disgusted to see that that person is still sitting here on the town council. Now, when I threaten to sue for libel, I want to make it clear that I'm not bluffing. I've done it before. As an anti-Zionist Jew, I get a lot of hate, okay? And let me make another point really quickly. There has always been Jewish objection to Zionism and Israel. There has always been Jewish objection to Zionism and Israel. I'm not a freak. I have very real reasons
to object to a settler colonialist apartheid entity that is currently in process of committing genocide. Demonstrations that were organized here had to do with issues. They were not targeting Jews for no reason. They were not targeting Jews at all. They were targeting the state of Israel and Zionism and genocide. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Mr. Berliner.
Resident and trustee of the Teaneck Neighborhood Association, remembering Dr. Kenneth Hoffman. By the way, while we bring a resolution for Juneteenth, I would like to make everyone aware that today is actually Emancipation Day in our nation's capital, where in 1862 they started the freeing of the enslaved Americans. I will use my time this evening to return good and welfare to what it should be used for, discussion and updates on matters of local interest and importance. Everyone in this room in Teaneck, Bergen County, New Jersey, the United States has been impacted by Ken. Professionally, as an oncologist, he clinically treated or advised many for cancer and other diseases. As an epidemiologist, he was involved with the local and regional response to the COVID-19 pandemic and helped to establish Teaneck as a national leader. As a volunteer and member of the community, he was a longtime member and chair of PPRAB Most, the Environmental Commission. He never did make it onto the Fields Committee. He was deeply involved with local recreation and youth sports. On the baseball field, he was a coach, board member, and umpire for Teaneck Southern. On the soccer pitch, he was a longtime board member, coach, referee, and mentor for Teaneck Junior Soccer. However, his passion was top soccer, where he believed all children, regardless of ability or unique challenges, should have the opportunity to learn, play, and grow in a safe environment. On a personal level, to many, he was a friend, confidant, trusted advisor, very honest critic, and loving father to Nick and Alex, and husband to Vivian. While he was a man of deep faith and conviction for truth, justice, honesty, and loyalty, most important to him was family and Teaneck. No matter his personal disagreements or politics, first and foremost was Teaneck, and priority was always the children of Teaneck. He put his time, effort, and money where his mouth was. He was so humbled when surprised with the naming of the soccer field at the Votive Sportsplex as Hoffman's pitch. While it was not something he expected or asked for, he understood that the honor solidified his eternal mark on the town that he loved so much. As the plaque reads, his tireless commitment and dedication to our township sports organizations has made him a role model in our community through making his vision of this sportsplex a reality. His many years of leadership in the township have provided improved quality of play while nurturing a safe space for our diverse community for all sports in Teaneck. I've heard that he was the only person to have such a monument named for him while still living. If a permit was needed, something required repair, equipment to be purchased, or a plan to be executed, he knew who to call and how to move it forward. This was a feature, not a bug. Ken's friend Ed Seaver shared in an email with the soccer community. He did so many things for so many people that we cannot truly appreciate the loss until we realize how many times in the future we will say, Ken always took care of that. As many who are and who have been up on the dais understand, from here to Trenton to Washington, D.C., Dr. Hoffman was Teaneck's biggest cheerleader. He developed his personal and professional relationships to support the community, raise money for local charities and food banks, support open space, and develop our leading recreation programs and facilities. It was always about Teaneck and our children. May his memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berliner. Mr. Harley.
Good evening, Dwayne Harley, Teaneck resident since 1970. Tonight I want to just say I'm against having the memorials on the town green. I think instituting memorials, and I'm coming from a demographic we've seen the worst out of any demographic in the United States, right? No one has have experienced more pain and sorrow than the African American in this country. And I don't think there should be a slave memorial or any other kind of memorial, because they're doing that. We're also subjugating everybody else who's been marginalized in this town or in this country. While we have two groups who will be highlighted and illuminated on Teaneck Road, there'll be other marginalized groups languishing in the darks, right? What we need to do, I think, is, and also there was a comment that Dr. Pruitt, that Dr. Pruitt was supporting, and he no longer supports that, having that memorial on our town green. He understands that there's a better way that we could have this education. Not that people should know about the atrocities, but we should have the education somewhere where people can go, maybe like the library, maybe walk through the park or something like that, but where we can include more and more communities in such a history, not illuminate only two groups, because it's going to look as if we're putting one group or two groups above everyone else. I also think we need to really do the work. We're about to have a celebrate, I think, the 60th anniversary of when this township integrated the schools. Those people that agreed to do that actually did the work, hard work. There was many people on the dais who, or people in the community who's didn't want their children, their white children, to go to schools with Black children, but they said, and they just did what was right, and they did the work. They didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about the niceties, and they just went and made things happen for the betterment of a democracy. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to focus on our democracy by having more voices heard and implemented in our process. And I think by doing that, we'll have a better outcome, and we'll maybe get away from all this fighting back and forth. If we could have more, inclusion in TNA. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. The lady in the back. No, I'm sorry. The one in the back row. And then you can go next. Sorry about that.
Hello, my name is Amanda. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, great. I do want to recognize that anti-Semitism is not institutionally recognized. I also want to recognize that institutionally, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, anti-hijabi specifically, practices are continuously recognized. And when anti-Semitism is institutionally recognized, it's in order to persecute Black and brown folks in this country. So I bring us to TNEC, why we have this resolution that seems benign, right? But at the end of the day, we all know that it's because some council members want us to be able to persecute every person who speaks up for Palestine. And frankly speaking, as someone who's grown up in TNEC, has went through the public schools, I actually refuse to let my communities be gaslit into believing that somehow Jewish communities are uniquely persecuted in this town, when the reality is that anti-Blackness and racism has been running rampant in this town ever since I was in high school. And beyond that, that was just to my memory. I know that I'm built on thousands and thousands of other memories of former residents in this town, or people who don't even live in this town, but just come to TNEC. So I refuse to allow this idea that we're somehow uniquely hateful as a community, because that's simply not true. We just stand up for Palestine. And so I also want to return to this idea that repeatedly in many resolutions and many iterations of this, that Holocaust survivors are brought up often. But you know what isn't brought up? The fact that so many Holocaust survivors are rampantly against the Zionist state, because they understand, they see, they went through the vitriol and the hatred that led to the Holocaust in the first place. But you know what Israel did to the Holocaust survivors that don't agree with their state? They disenfranchised them and they disregarded them. And you know, to me, that is the epitome of anti-Semitism. So in that case, I really suggest that you take this resolution off the table, because you know what this is intended to do. It is intended to persecute us who are standing for a free Palestine, who are thinking about the souls of our souls constantly, every single day. Free Palestine.
The lady sitting next to Paula.
My name is Susan Schultz. I've been a resident of Teaneck for almost 35 years. I'm Jewish. My grandmother, her mother, her father, her brother and sister had to leave in the middle of the night because of the pogroms. And honestly, I'm really glad that they made it. I'm here because of that. But I look at the resolution that is here, and it really hit me hard. It says, whereas is a documented and dangerous rise of anti-Semitism globally in the United States and in New Jersey. And then I'm going to skip one whereas anti-Semitism is an insidious form of prejudice stretching back millennia that attacks the humanity of the Jewish people and has led to violence, destruction of lives and communities, and genocide. And I read that word, genocide. And it hit me right here. We are living today, we are witness of a genocide happening. And oh, wait 1 minute, that doesn't affect us in Teaneck, but it does. Guess who is paying for this? Our tax dollars are going to pay for this genocide. And it is just horrifying. And so when I see this, that's what it reminds me of. When I see this resolution, and I don't see a resolution asking for a ceasefire, I am astounded that everyone up here on this dais is all right with that. I'm not all right with the Holocaust. I'm not all right with what was going on with my grandparents. And I'm not all right what is happening in Gaza right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. The gentleman with the baseball hat. Third row, you, sir, yes.
Thank you. Martin Stein, a Teaneck resident for 43 and a half years. First of all, as a point of information, the anti-Semitism resolution does, in the resolved paragraph, condemn all forms of hate. For those who question why we need the End Jewish Hatred resolution, I ask the following question. What possible reason could an organized group of people from Philadelphia have for joining a car rally and driving 2 hours to Teaneck, if not to harass and intimidate Jews? There can be no pretense that this is anything other than a clear example of organized anti-Semitism, in contrast to the isolated acts of outlier individuals, lone wolf individuals. This is organized anti-Semitism. Second, to say that a Holocaust memorial is divisive is not only shocking and insensitive, but if anything, it confirms the need for the resolution. As for the accusation of ethnic cleansing, if that was Israel's intention, it could wipe out Gaza in a heartbeat.
Please don't interrupt. Go ahead, Mr. Stein.
Instead, Israel drops leaflets telling people where to run, while Hamas...
Please don't interrupt. Nobody interrupted you guys, so please don't interrupt him. Thank you.
While Hamas uses civilians as human shields and hides...
Please don't interrupt.
And hides in mosques and hospitals with their weapons. Finally, for those who call for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, I ask, if that happened, what possible incentive would Hamas have to free any of the hostages that were taken from Israel? Is it the good faith that Hamas has shown in not allowing the Red Cross to even see the hostages? Is it the good faith that Hamas has shown in not even being willing to give Israel the names of the hostages? The answer really is self-evident. Finally, I would like to applaud the council for passing the Juneteenth bill. I think that is a very important bill as well, and a resolution, and I hope they will pass it again tonight.
Thank you, sir. Someone on this side? Lady in the back?
Hi, my name is Layla, Teaneck resident. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I'm here today to share a few stories. The first is of a journalist from Gaza, Samia Al-Atrash, whose image and video went viral as she embraced the shrouded corpse of a young child, whispering lovingly into her ear. Samia said when she lost her mother, her sister Samar became like a mother to her, and her nieces, 4-year-old Lina and 2-year-old Masa, were the soul of life for them. Samar's husband was like a big brother to Samia and a huge support. When Samia heard about the Israeli bombing of her sister's home in Rafah, she said it was the most difficult day of her life. She navigated through extreme danger to reach the hospital, only for her worst fears to be confirmed. Samia said her screams could be heard by everyone. A nurse went up to Samia and told her that a little girl arrived at the hospital in pieces. The 4-year-old Lina, who came into this world after many years of heart-wrenching infertility and miscarriages, was a martyr. Samia mourned at the pieces of her beloved niece that could be found after the missile strike. She said that she could not find her sister's remains, nor that of her youngest niece or brother-in-law. Everyone was trapped under the rubble. She went into their destroyed neighborhood, and rescue teams finally excavated Samar's body from the rubble in pieces. They then found 2-year-old Masa's body. The force of the missile threw her little body through a window, and so her corpse was found on the roof of a neighbor's house. She was the only one who remained whole and not torn to pieces. After Masa was shrouded and prepared for burial, Samia tightly embraced her niece's little body and whispered in her ear, bidding her to tell Samia's mother and her sister Samar that she misses them and yearns dearly for their reunion in heaven. Another journalist, Yumna As-Sayed, relates the story of a little boy who was brought to Al-Nasr hospital in Gaza by ambulance. He was no more than 11 or 12 years old. She asked if he was okay and noticed the blood dripping from a backpack strapped to his chest. The boy asked Yumna, "Do you know what I have here?" She said she was scared to hear the answer as the blood continued to trickle. The boy replied, "It's my brother, Ahmed." This boy carried pieces of his martyred 5-year-old brother in his backpack. And just hours ago, today, Tuesday, April 16th, 11 children in Gaza were massacred as an Israeli airstrike targeted a playground at Al-Maghazi refugee camp. James Baldwin once said, "The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe. And I am beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this is incapable of morality. These are just a few stories of billions.
Graham, your time
Your
is up.
indifference does not represent me. Free
Thank you,
Palestine."
ma'am. Ms. Horowitz.
Good evening, Council. Emma Horowitz, Teaneck resident. A lot has been said about resolutions and why we need them. Town councils put out resolutions, Congress issues resolutions, and local committees make resolutions too, but why? Really, it's one of the ways that our elected officials can signal to their constituents what they believe about a wide variety of issues, and people deserve to know what our elected officials believe. I, for one, am proud to live in a town that at the same meeting can both denounce anti-Semitism and acknowledge the critical importance of talking about the horrors of slavery. In both cases, these resolutions encourage and give specific opportunities for people to come together, to learn, to reflect on these issues, and to engage in acts of service. I am pleased that these two resolutions were added to the consent agenda, as it shows that Council plans to vote on them unanimously, which is what I hope will happen. The idea of condemning a resolution about anti-Semitism that passed without incident last year, and which our Council, again, has placed on the consent agenda, is truly bizarre, considering the shocking increase in anti-Semitic incidents here in town. It's very hurtful that our neighbors all of a sudden find this problematic. Moving on to other local issues. Tonight, there are ordinances changing the cannabis framework for the better. This is an issue where I have personally found common ground with Ms. Khan, for example, and some of my other Muslim neighbors, and I look forward to finding more issues of common ground with other neighbors going forward. I would also like to discuss the issue of Palmer Avenue. It is my understanding that a traffic study was conducted going north-south, which I appreciate, but that is only half the issue. The east-west traffic on streets such as Vandalinda Avenue and other side streets is also an issue. People don't have stop signs and tend to go very quickly down these streets. It is my belief that four-way stop signs would go a long way towards solving this problem and preventing further tragedies. Thank you very much to Township Manager Kaczynski and Deputy Township Manager Rowe for looking into this again, if possible, and for everything that you've done so far. I would also like to congratulate the recipients of the Matthew Feldman Awards, as well as Avi Berliner on his well-deserved appointment tonight. One last thing. I participated in the town cleanup at Argonne Park, and I want to say what a terrific event that is. This is something that everyone should participate in, and I think I got a lot out of it personally. I met some new people, was able to have a real sense of accomplishment as we help make an area of town that is actually very, very beautiful, but unfortunately it has been used as a dumping ground for a lot of trash. I really think that it was really a great opportunity for everyone, and everyone should do this. And I'd like to suggest that it be added to a summer calendar as well, because I think we could get a good turnout over the summer. And it would be really nice to have the opportunity to come together, meet more people, and make a positive difference in town, which is, I think, at the end of the day, really what most of us would really like to see going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Amrit?
Amrit Ramjatan, Teaneck resident. Just a general hello and good night to the council. So I'd like to inquire about the budget and the tax rate increase. I saw from the municipal budget presentation that a 6.99% rate increase was being proposed. So how close are we to keeping that tax rate increase to a minimum level? I saw a few reduced rates being proposed: 6.49, 5.99, 5.49, and 4.99. I'm going to be selfish and ask we aim for 4.99 and keep the impact to residents as low as possible. I'm sure a lot of the residents aren't exactly happy with the property revaluations. Great if you want to sell, but if you want to live here with your family, those are some tough numbers to swallow. Average home value going from $390,000 to $630,000 on average is a lot. I saw from appraisal systems that the 2024 predicted tax rate should go up to about 2.047. So if we do some rough numbers, we're probably coming in at 12,000. I'm not an expert on taxes, right? Let's say I'm off. Let's say it's 10,000. That's still a lot to come out of anyone's median budget, right? I think the median income for Teaneck is probably around 130, 140,000. So how close are we to balancing the budget? And are there any additional revenue streams to discuss? I remember there was a talk about selling a cell phone tower. Do we have any more details on that? I remember a hotel tax came up. I don't know if we have any more details on that, what the rate increase would be and how that would affect us. And I know we're in a politically charged climate, but I do have to agree with getting any aid we can from the state to kind of help alleviate some of this funding issues, right? Because everything's going to impact our township and the budget as a whole. So yeah, just any more information would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Amrit. Doug, before we move forward, I make a motion to extend the meeting to 11:30.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
No.
How many more? I think I only see two more hands in the audience because we lost a bunch of people. Three. Okay, Mr. Rockland.
I imagine you asked for three, so I don't have to ask a motion to, so on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Rockland.
You're all good.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rockland. 1 second. I missed your name, sir. I apologize. In the back, you just spoke. I'm sorry. What was your name? Amrit. Thank you. Sorry, Mike.
Good evening, council. And I'm glad to be here again for the second council meeting in a row. Last meeting, as part of the consent agenda, you guys passed our brand new complete streets policy, which I'm very proud of. We also were the first town to send the county a letter asking them to pass a complete streets policy. And I believe that at least one other town has done so. I have to go back and check. And a number of civic organizations in nearby towns have also signed the same or similar letters. Now, I also heard tonight, you're good, don't worry about it. I also heard tonight about improvements to Palisade Avenue. I also heard tonight about improvements to Palmer Avenue and traffic studies. And I also both rode the bus and drove today on the newly milled Teaneck Road. What I didn't hear from the dais, what I didn't hear from anybody, was the word complete streets. And what I'm hoping is that as we revisit these intersections, as we revisit these streets, we apply the very clear resolution, the very clear policy that was passed last time around, including the checklist, which gives pretty clear instructions on how the town staff can best make sure that our streets are safe for everybody. Now, four-way stop signs are great sometimes. They're not always the best tool for the job. What is important is the problem that they are addressing. The problem they are addressing is people blowing through, these intersections, driving unsafely. And I don't know about you guys, but in my lifetime, I have driven through stop signs. I am guilty as charged, and that is because our streets are wide. Our line of sight is, optimized for cars moving fast. I don't know if the volumes are going to justify, on the basis of the old criteria, moving, setting up a four-way stop sign or whatever else we're going to put in there. What I do know is that if we take a full holistic complete streets approach, we will probably get a set of recommendations from, the same municipal use codes and all that stuff. I'm not an expert here. I trust the experts in this town to do their job. And so I'll ask Mr. Rowe to please convey, and the council as well, to please convey to whoever it is who's doing these studies, just to take a second look at that complete streets policy. And I look forward to seeing us do great stuff with our streets going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mr. Addison.
Good evening, council. Before I forget, you mentioned something about the budget. So in the budget, I would hope that you would finally put in the budget for a compliance officer in the township of Teaneck. I mean, we talk about these areas that are in need of revitalization, but they don't have to be that way if we have compliant officers to go around to make sure that everyone does what they're supposed to do. Congratulations to those who received the awards tonight. They're well deserved. We talk about resolutions. Resolutions are good, but they're words on a paper that if they're not acted upon means nothing. And I think any resolution that's written should be written with a fair balance that doesn't offend anyone or any organization or any religious group. Resolutions are great, but they should be well written, well thought of, and not one-sided. Regarding the monuments, I believe, as others do, that there should not be any monument put on Teaneck property on the municipal lawn. Fine, if you want a monument, whether it's Holocaust or whether it's African, but it should be put on private property, whereas not on Teaneck public property, because taxpayers' monies are spent for the property. So if you want to have a monument, fine. I agree, there should be. But once you start with two, what happens to the other people, the other groups in town who may want a monument? I don't think you have that much space on the lawn to do that. So you should be very careful on how you go forward with putting on monuments and resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Addison. The last speaker in chambers.
Thank you, David Mirsky, Teaneck resident. I really do appreciate trying to end early. I also do appreciate making a little extra time to kind of hear the rest of the people in chambers. It is definitely welcomed. I don't necessarily like staying in chambers or on Zoom so late, but I do want to start with some town issues. So one, congratulations to Mr. Khan, who is no longer here, very well deserved. The other one, I would like to make a request of council and the council members that we look into finding a better way to collect more community events and have them posted on the town calendar. It's very hard to find a lot of these events that live in different WhatsApp groups that some of us may or may not be a part of. If it wasn't for Councilwoman Belcher making note of the Peacemakers event at the last council meeting, I wouldn't have been able to attend. And really, it was a great experience. In the group I was able to participate in, we had people from literally one side of Teaneck all the way to the other, spread throughout, and all the different tiny little neighbors we had. And it was really awesome to have that experience. So in addition to that, I was also, just like a few other people here and who had spoken on Zoom, I was part of the town cleanup, which was on the calendar. It was a great way to interact with other people in the community. It was a great way to interact not just with those helping out, but people in the community came out to introduce themselves, and we're very thankful for the work that was happening. So I would love to see more cleanups. It definitely was great to have my kid participate, even though he was whining half the time. It's fine. It was raining. I do give him that a little bit. And the last thing that I just want to mention is that when it comes to our street, as mentioned about safe streets, very happy that we were able to pass that. In the meantime, I would like to request that we continue to encourage law enforcement to enforce the rules of the road so people running through stop signs can get their just desserts. But it is, obnoxious having cars speeding down the runways, making loud noises, and it's dangerous to children, even when it's on the main roads, and especially when it extends into the side streets. So I would like to see that we continue looking into that and making sure that we can make the streets, safer for pedestrians as well as residents, to make sure that any, loud noises and cars zooming down the road, what have you, are also held accountable. So this way, as town members, we can enjoy our town and our peace and quiet as we like it. 41 seconds. Cool. So one other thing I'd like to mention, I'm sitting here, and I did mention I do appreciate, good and welfare to, an extent being limited to not just time, but also town specific related issues, as has been brought up many times. We wouldn't need to be here so late. So if there is a possible way we can introduce some sort of speaking ordinance to kind of help if people do want to speak and they do have issues and they do want to address them that aren't specific to our town and what is happening. Every council member here has voiced that to please reach out to them. Emails are available online. Some of you have given their cell phone numbers. So if there are issues that are not with regards to town, then you can reach out to us. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz will entertain
Yes,
that
I'd like to
motion
make a
now. If you'd like to
motion to
make
end good
it.
welfare. I'd like to make a motion to end good and welfare.
You have there's a first. Is there a second? No, we're not ignoring people on Zoom. We spoke.
Okay.
If there is no second, then you're up.
Sherwat Mohammed. I'm a Bogota resident, but I will be a soon to be Teaneck resident.
Your name, please, for the record, ma'am.
Sherwat Mohammed. So growing up, I was a hijabi, and unfortunately, I faced a lot of Islamophobia from some Teaneck residents. I've never held that against the Jewish community. It is something I do want to know, because it's something that I have had to deal with and internalize with myself. Obviously, it is something that has grown with me and is evident, and I'm working on that. But what I came here and what I wanted to share are some comments that were that I had left on a video of a council person. And I just wanted them to be on the record because they were deleted. So my first comment was very selective of what you want to show from your side, blank. You continue to be a divisive figure of the council instead of being a community leader for everybody in Teaneck. You had many Muslim women who volunteer for your campaign and work for you for months, and you've chosen to alienate them. Be an adult and talk to your constituents. This rhetoric is causing deeper divides in this town, and you're an active participant. Many of those who spoke at the meetings have asked members of the council to take empathy training, which has yet to happen and is very obviously needed. There's empirical evidence that has been presented to you and you've ignored. You've allowed anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian, anti-Muslim hate to be spewed in council meetings and by your friends and supporters. Muslims can't even catch a break from this hate during Ramadan. Members of the Jewish community in Teaneck have spoken out against this same rhetoric and hate that they have attacked and that they are attacked and harassed. Many of them have made calls for peace and tolerance. Clearly, it's not about Jewish hate. If your ideology isn't agreed with, then everybody is anti-Semitic, even if you're a Jew. Come on, this is delusional. You're doxing people of color now too. Absolutely disgusting. Be better. It was replied to with a speech that this council person had given. I replied, I was present for this speech, which I think came far too late for the members of the Jewish community who were attacked for months. You choose to echo very specific talking points that further divide communities in Teaneck. In the council meetings I've attended, I have yet to hear you condemn anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian, and Islamophobic rhetoric perpetuated by members of your community. Jihadi Janes, for example, eye roll emoji. I can confidently say I've rejected anti-Semitic sentiments when it appears.
Yes, your time is up, ma'am. Thank you. And Mr. Schwartz, to your point, I will make the motion to terminate good and welfare. To your point, I am making a motion to terminate good and welfare.
I'll second that.
I know, but there was a first and a second. I know we do acknowledge, but we did hear a lot of people on Zoom tonight, and we still have a lot of work to do.
There's 20 hands, Deputy Mayor.
And everybody's comments are duly noted for the record. Roll call, please, Mr. Roussillon.
There was a first from Mayor Pagan, a second from Councilman Schwartz. Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher.
No.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz. Deputy Mayor G.
No.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes, because we have a lot more to do.
Good and
And
welfare.
wait, actually, Mr. Schwartz, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna stick to Teaneck topics. My name is Mark Schwartz. I've been a Teaneck resident for 30 years. My cell phone number, if anyone wants to reach out to me, is 917-902-9303. I live at 641 Cumberland Avenue. All my financials are properly filed for on the Teaneck website. You can dox me, whatever you want. I'm here to work with people. So if you purchase a house, I'm in L. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to speak to you about the issues. If you have an issue with flooding, I'm going to look up where you live. I'm going to walk by your house. I'm going to go for a walk with you. If you want to come up and interview to a board, I'm going to look in your neighborhood, speak with you, walk by, look at the park around the corner. If you want to amend the fence ordinances, I'm going to drive by your house and look at the corner fence that you're looking for. This is what it's about. If you want to come up here and speak and want to work on Teaneck and work with Teaneck, yes, I'm going to look you up and we're going to see how we can help you out. That's what we do. If we want to hide from something, just don't show up. Don't talk then. There's all my information. I've got nothing to hide. Jumping into it. Please make sure you sign up for the alerts on the Township website. Many of the stuff is on there. We can always add more. The race amity event was a great event. It was on there. We could definitely do more about putting onto the Township's Facebook. So thank you for that note. Thank you very much for the Juneteenth resolution and the education, something we absolutely did not learn about growing up, and I've always found it fascinating, especially the events. I believe we'll probably have the silent walk. Was that for Juneteenth as well? June 15th is a silent walk. I look forward to being there as well. As it relates to the stop sign by Margaret Baker's house, she's been asking about that intersection forever, so that's great news to hear it's finally been done. Had the pleasure of walking by Margaret Baker's house several times because I know where she lives, and it's glad to hear that got done. The Votee Park North Pool area bathrooms I was asked about. That I believe is already approved, already in the capital budget, and that's being worked on. I know that was a question, so we're making progress on having clean new pools in that north part of the park. Budget. We are hoping to get it to 4.9%. That's a goal. How we're going to get there is potentially selling the cell phone antenna. So that is being worked on as well. The hotel tax is being reviewed that we may have capped out at a certain cap. So that was a little bit update as it relates to that matter. And lastly, I think that is what else. That is what I have for everything township related. Thank you very much for
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Belcher.
Okay, I want to thank the neighbors for coming out and calling up to, tonight. I want to start by saying, Scott Pleasant, thank you for the proclaiming of National Poetry Month. I think it speaks, so much in terms of our desire to want to really highlight arts and culture within our township. I want to also thank the neighbors for coming out for the listening session. It was very informative, and we look forward to continuing to respond to our community. Several business owners, I meant to mention this earlier from the Cedar Lane Management Group. I spoke with a few business owners who had not received the sign up yet for the Memorial Day fair. Memorial Day. So that's something we can look into because a few people had asked me about that. Additionally, Mr. Addison, yes, compliance or an enforcement officer is definitely something that we would like to continue to explore. I want to say that we absolutely, I must, and we all must condemn all forms of hatred and all isms. It is vitally important that all residents within our township should feel safe, free of harassment, free of threats, name calling, or libel. I hear you, Mr. Vasky. It's vitally important that we remember our foreparents because they left a great historic legacy for us to follow, such as defending American democracy and the rights that we hold dearly within our nation. We must remember that our voices must not be silenced, that free speech must not be challenged. We must endeavor to defend the very rights that our parents and our foreparents marched for and sat at lunch counters for, those who participated in boycotts and were jailed for doing so and even died for. It is for the civil disobedience and peaceful protest that if it weren't for that, we would not have seen most of the rights that we enjoy in this nation. In the summer of 1964, students traveled hundreds of miles from the north to Mississippi and Alabama to protest the fight for voter registration. Our oath to the Constitution means we must uphold the principles of American democracy. We must be about the business, however, of the people of Teaneck. That's so vitally important. And it seems that tonight James Baldwin seemed to be quoted quite a bit. And I just want to quote him by saying, if one really wishes to know how justice is administered in a country, any country, one does not question the policemen, the lawyers, the judges, or the protected members of the middle class. One goes to the unprotected, those precisely who needs the law's protection most, and listens to their testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Ms. Oregon.
So I hope Sandy Silverberg is watching. We got our stop sign at Decatur. So happy about that. To the residents of Palmer, sometimes we get it wrong, sometimes we get it right. It doesn't mean that we're afraid to revisit. And when a solar paneled stop sign seems like a great idea, and then you walk your dog at night and it's not what you were hoping for in front of your house, we can come back and take a look at that. And we will be in touch, and we hear you about the east-west traffic study as well. Mr. Mirsky, I also went to the Environmental Commission cleanup on Sunday, and I brought my daughter, and she also whined, though she's 22, and we saw 2 snakes. And I think you really don't get to know somebody until you unearth liquor bottles or an old toilet seat cover with them. And I do hope that we do this again in the summer because it was really so much fun. And the parks are really, really dirty, years of things buried, but really a great way to get to know your neighbors. As far as the hate resolution, I think Mayor Dunleavy's wish was that it be introduced every year. And I think it was wonderful, and I think it's a wonderful idea. If we end up with 4 nodding heads, I'd love to put it on the agenda for May 7th. And we should probably put it on the calendar and introduce it every year. I don't think our work with hate will be done until people can pray together and gather together without fear ever. And to touch on only one thing that is negative, I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that a car rally is peaceful. Anybody can try to convince me of anything else, but not that. Dr. Hoffman, I came to him late in life. My children did not play sports. For those of you who have met my husband, it was for the best for everybody. He did not coach. But we really got to know Dr. Hoffman these last few years. He was a friend and an ally and a medical advisor to us. And I like to think Eric and Jamie were to him as well at some point. And we definitely drank some bourbon in his memory. And he will be sorely missed by everyone. And I feel like Ellie might want to do this tonight, but batting cleanup one last time was always Dr. Hoffman coming to us with really level, kind words to wrap up a meeting at the end of Good and Welfare. It was always great when he got to speak at the end and settled things and brought his own spin on them at the end. So we will miss him very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg.
First and foremost, I would like to directly condemn the vile language that I saw in the video of the car caravan from Sunday from Philadelphia. The words are too vile to repeat, and repeating them would be painful for our residents to hear. When I saw that video, I reported that to the police, and there's an active investigation pending. It has been 192 days since Tenafly resident Eden Alexander was violently kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. It has been 190 days since the first protest down Teaneck Road calling out the hateful words that Hamas includes in their charter, calling for the death to Jews and elimination of the only Jewish state. It is the life experience of Jews, and it seems difficult for non-Jews to understand that October 7th was not something in a cycle of violence or a war. And as I bore witness very painfully this past week, the gruesome brutality that Hamas terrorists, not Muslims, not Palestinians, only Hamas, as they beheaded Jews, and with every shovel into the next, they cheered, "Die Jew." They did not say Zionist, they said Jew. When you say Zionist, you mean Jew. And as I watch that moment, I can't get that moment out of my head because all I saw was someone that I love. And since witnessing that moment, I will not feel safe until I'm home. Teaneck did not treat October 7th any differently than it has any other terrorist attack in history. No matter where they took place, Teaneck condemns terror always. No one in this town reports to the Israeli army or Bibi Netanyahu. No one in this town reports to Hamas or Sinwar. We all knew it would be bad. We never realized we were going back to Nazi Germany. It's a life experience unique to us, and it seems that Jews have to apologize for existing. Recognizing and condemning a pogrom and terrorists against Jews is not divisive or international politics. Recognizing victims of a specific terrorist attack has been done time and time again. If there is a concern or issue with politics of the state of Israel, go to the consulate. After the last council meeting, a resident sent me the below message that I'm about to read to you. When Keter Torah and B'nai Yeshurun were threatened, every Jew in Teaneck went back to November 9th, 1938, and they were scared. I know because I spent all day taking those calls, hearing how scared they were, and I had to tell countless numbers of residents that our police will protect us, and they did. Jews and their allies came to protect houses of worship while protesters screamed to globalize the Intifada from river to sea, and a community stood strong and proud and sang to drown out those words. And it was a beautiful moment. But as I walked home, my family was scared because they heard those words in our home. I received the below message. She asked to remain anonymous. Thank you again for your words this evening at the council meeting. They were very powerful, and I appreciate that you've been talking about Kristallnacht. My 97-year-old grandmother, who lives a block away from B'nai Yeshurun, was a little girl in Berlin that night and vividly remembers running with her family to the rooftops as the Nazis broke into their apartment building and destroyed their home. She told me many times since October 7th, she never would have imagined that she would have to live through such evil twice in one lifetime. To be honest, Councilwoman Goldberg, I have been seriously doubting that we will ever convince anyone. We won't convince them that this feels like Kristallnacht. We won't convince them that from the river to the sea is a genocidal slogan. We won't convince them that your resolution is just as an excuse And these protests are meant to terrorize the Jews of Teaneck because we are Jews and it would have occurred even if there was no resolution. But we need to say it out loud anyway, even if it's just for us, because it's the truth. And so we can strengthen each other and know that we're not alone. So thank you again for screaming into the dark abyss. The Jews of Teaneck hear you, and it helps us be less afraid. Imagine my horror when there was any issues with ending Jew hate day. Some members of the Jewish community reached out saying they wanted the resolution, but didn't want to hear the anti-Semitism that came with it. Ironic, no? And others said, you can't be supportive of the Israeli oppression and then complain about anti-Semitism. Thank you for proving why holding Jews collectively responsible for the actions of Israel is anti-Semitism. Jews will not apologize for existing, and nor should anyone else. Jews are the only people that can't acknowledge their experience without having to worry about fear or a reaction, and it's not going to happen anymore. We all have life experiences, we all have a history and fear, and that must be individually recognized and respected. This town wants to heal. This town wants peace. This town wants to breathe and not live in fear. There are 20,000 residents of this town terrified, and they are tired, and they are begging to recognize what is happening in this town and state, in every state, quite frankly, in the country and in the diaspora, as Jews are blamed and terrorized and shamed for existing. And I will say this one more time. When you say Zionist, you mean Jew. When you say from river to sea, it has one meaning and one meaning only, whether you agree or not. And when Jews hear that in their homes, calling for their death, when you say intifada, just look out the lawn in front of us and it'll tell you what it means. When you say ceasefire, you ignore that Hamas has said that they will commit this horror over and over again until they kill us all. And you ignore the hostages that were brutally kidnapped, and 19 women are being raped daily if they are still alive. You ignore that Hamas is not agreeing to any reasonable deal. There are words that we don't say, and there are words that we draw the line in and never utter. Let's respect each other. Let's respect each other's experience. Stop allowing outsiders to come in and causing fear and terror to our neighbors so that we can live in peace. We are all tired. I have experienced heartbreak and betrayal that I will never forgive, but I will not allow the very dangerous normalization of anti-Semitism in Teaneck, and I will not allow any resident in this town to live in fear. I will not allow our houses of worship to be threatened, and if I am only screaming into the dark abyss so residents experience horrific levels of fear of anti-Semitism or less afraid, please help me make them less afraid.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Mr. Rousseau, I make a motion to extend the meeting to midnight.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye. Ms. G.
All right. First, wanted to just send my condolences to the Hoffman family. I did not know Ken Hoffman well, but I knew of him. And in my brief interview with him during the advisory board in interviews, it was crystal clear that he had contributed so much to Teaneck, had so much knowledge, and he will be sorely missed. Quickly, ABCR, I just want to announce, is currently accepting nominations for the 2024 Matthew Feldman Awards. Please send any nominations to Cheryl Hall. Her email address is chall@teanecknj.gov. And then just in case folks are wondering, the specific Juneteenth activities, there are two. There's a silent walk that will take place on June 15th at 8 a.m. And then the flag raising will take place on June 19th at noon. I hope you all can join. Next, I want to just acknowledge much of what has been said today. I truly believe that we as a council have created the conditions for what is happening today. When we first introduced international politics to this dais, it became open for everyone to come and speak on it. If we want people to go back to speaking about Teaneck, I think we need to focus on Teaneck issues. If we sit up here and spend 10 minutes talking about international issues, what do you think people are going to come and want to talk about? I ask my council colleagues, please, let's focus on township issues so that we can get back to the business of Teaneck. I also think, council colleagues, we need to acknowledge that mistakes were made. Residents are saying they feel undervalued, unheard, like it has not been balanced. We have to acknowledge that their experiences are real. Last year, we passed this resolution to end Jewish hate without any issue. You have to question, why is it that people are having issues now? We have created the conditions where people are very sensitive and take anything that we do under high scrutiny. We have to make them feel heard and valued again so that they don't feel that way. Of course, we want to make sure that there's an end to Jewish hate. Of course, we should want to support this resolution. Until we as a council acknowledge that we have made mistakes and we proceed with balance to make sure that all of our residents feel represented by this council, I think we will see more of the same. I know I've heard from people, please start enforcing the laws to stop the car rallies. I think a quick way to stop the car rallies is to make sure that people feel represented by this council. Reach out, acknowledge what has happened in the past. I really do think that's the quicker way to stop the car rallies than to enforce the laws. Yes, enforce the laws, but they will still happen. There's a deeper underlying issue that has to be addressed. Finally, I just want to acknowledge, I think we missed an opportunity to acknowledge Arab Heritage Month, the first meeting of the month. And, you know, we're not perfect. We don't all have the cultural competency to represent every single community, but I am happy that we are going to work on that resolution and bring it back next month. But next year, I want to make sure that we do that at the top of the month, and not hold off till May. I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. G. First and foremost, thank you to all of our residents for participating tonight and joining us. Ms. Schwartz, thank you for bringing up the Garden Club. We are aware of the issues there, and we are going to help. Ms. Fuchs, thank you for bringing up garbage collection, because that is something we hear about a lot, and we have been exploring options. Mr. Leon, thank you for always focusing on local municipal issues and for always advocating for TNEC on things like our regular cleanups. Mr. Vatsky, thank you for talking about hope and for always helping us in our fight with CSX for rail safety. Ms. Garrier, we are working on the bathroom issue by the pool at Voti Park and the recycling issue, but thank you for staying on top of that with us. Rachel, thank you for letting us know about the issue at Argonne Park. So we will ask our manager and our DPW to look into that tomorrow. And Amaret, yes, sir, we are trying to lower that rate, especially considering how we just had a revaluation. Mr. Rowe, is there anything you would like to say about good and welfare, sir?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a couple things. During the manager's report, I forgot to mention, we had a request from a resident last month to install, or request that DOT install a mirror at Webster and Route 4. Since that's under the jurisdiction of NJDOT, I contacted them. It is not an approved traffic device, therefore they cannot. Argonne Park, Jesse Leon had talked about numerous liquor bottles being found in the park. I will, Chief McGurr, about stepping up patrols. I will also meet with our DPW Director, Trevon Romeo, in the morning to look at the park, to see what improvements can be made, short-term, midterm, and long-term. And lastly, Councilwoman Goldberg had talked about the incident on Teaneck Road on Sunday. That matter is under investigation as a bias incident by our police department, vigorously being investigated by them. But since it is an active investigation, I cannot comment on it or provide any additional.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Mr. Salmon, you had something you wanted to say too, sir?
Yes, I just want to address two inquiries that were made by residents tonight, both of which were related to the school district, Board of Ed. First, one speaker asked about the school budget and was noted that it was the largest portion of residents' property tax bills by far. He was inquiring as to whether the council can intervene or somehow get involved with the Board of Ed in their budget. While I understand the sentiment, obviously no one wants to pay higher taxes. I do want to be clear for the council as well as for the public's sake that the Township Council is not permitted under state law from getting involved in any way in the Board of Ed's budget. They are a completely separate autonomous body with their own duly elected officials, and state law has drawn strict lines between the two. So, you know, you all as the town council has no authority over the Board of Ed. And so again, while I understand the sentiment, I just want to be clear about the division of responsibilities here and what your authority is. Second, another speaker asked about the Bryan School and whether the planning board was entitled, I think, to review their proposal for their renovation. While I would defer a more detailed discussion of this to the incoming planning board attorney, I do want to say that from a general public education perspective, projects related to public entities in this case, a public school, by the Board of Ed on public property are exempt from the zoning laws of the township, and that's again under state law. Normally, while a private property owner might have to go before the land use boards, site plan approval for variance relief or something like that, that doesn't apply to something like the Board of Ed or frankly, the township itself. The planning board's ability to review these things is basically limited to ensuring that the use is permitted in the zone in which the school is located. This is usually referred to as a quote unquote courtesy review. It's entirely advisory since the township's requirements for things like height, setbacks, parking requirements, site plan approval, all those things are not applicable to public entities like the Board of Ed. So by doing that type of advisory review, the township is complying with its obligations under state law, and to impose any other requirements on the school district would be violation of it. So it's just a courtesy advisory review, and that's all that we're allowed to do. So that's all I have. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Our next order of business is the consent agenda, and all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Mr. Norchik, can you please read the amount of the bill list into the record? Take your time. Thank you, Kristen. Take your time, Doug. We don't want you to get hurt. Consent agenda, yeah. Thank you, Kristen.
In the amount of, and also including our 3 resolutions that we included on the consent agenda this evening with the bill list of $20,143,846.86.
So move Schwartz.
Second.
We have Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilman Goldberg,
Yes to all with an abstention on the entire bills list.
Councilman Organ,
Yes to all.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes to all with an abstention on the bills list.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our next order of business is our introduction of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of the ordinances into the record?
Yes, sir. We have ordinance number 7-2024, amending ordinance number 57-2021, permitting cannabis establishments as a conditional use within the light industry district in the township of Teaneck. And we also have ordinance number 8-2024, adopting rules and regulations related to tree removal.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I move to approve both on first reading.
Second.
Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
Councilman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilman Organ.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz. Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All introduced. We will see ordinance 8 next meeting. We will see ordinance 7 on May 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I move to adjourn.
Can I just ask,
Oh, yeah.
do we have 4 nodding heads for the hate resolution for the next
Yes.
agenda?
Yeah, we did. I think we
Okay.
had, yeah.
The hate has no home, right?
Yes,
That was
the Dunleavy thing that. Yeah.
The Dunleavy thing.
All right, so I think there was a first and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you to all our residents for coming out tonight and for participating. We appreciate you and we hope you have a peaceful evening. Thank you.
Whatever.
I figured I was out there. Well, that's nice. I wanted to be that and I felt like I got. I was here.
You just cut and say bye?
Yeah, yeah.
I never know.